Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the X-Men Retrospective. I am the Tin Squid, Trasnell, and I'm joined by...
I am the Shadow King, Crickle Batzer.
I am the shaggy blue high Dylan Muss.
I'm the bubblegum Taylor Field.
The bubblegum. You're going to have to jog
It's
my
relevant.
memory on that one. Okay, you're going to have to
It's
jog my memory on that one. I hope so. Or we're doing 3 retros tonight, so maybe you're on the different... I'm the Necromancer.
Definitely X-Men.
But yes, luckily we are here for the X-Men Retrospective, Season 2, Episodes 1 to 6, so the first half of Season 2. So if you're like, hey, where are you? And you want to pause and go watch them, or if you've watched them all before and you know what we're talking about, that's what we're talking about, the first half of Season 2. You can go back for the first 2 episodes where we did entirely of Season 1, split into 2 parts. And like I said, I think that's our whole schedule, is each season split up into 2 parts. I think it's 6 seasons, 12 episodes. Sounds a lot smaller when you say it that way, like just 12 episodes as a retro, but lots of time, lots of episodes. I'm excited to talk about many of them. Taylor Field, obviously it's tough to, as usual, promote what's happening because these will be coming out in the fall, and that's why you should hit a Patreon, because you'll be getting this right now, February 4th.
Crazy.
That's the day. At that time, instead of waiting until spring, summer, fall, whenever it may be, where can they find this stuff, Taylor?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. Geekverse.ca is our home base. Geekversecast our Twitter. Geekverse is our Facebook.
Yeah, and whatever's down below, that's what you need to know. Audio, video feeds, like we said, how to support us, head over to Patreon and do that. A big thank you to whoever the Patreon producers are right now. Again, shows like this, the other retrospectives, Travis told you, Side Quest, Weekly Geek, like everything that's the additional, other than like a weekly newscast or review. You all are helping us out with that, whether you're downloading or on Patreon. So we really appreciate it. And these shows are because of you, because everything we make goes back into the podcast. So, I'm going to bring up the synopsises right now for these episodes because I'm diving into Wikipedia. One day I'll have it all ready to go as usual, but I don't. This season starts in 1993, so my birth year. So very, very special. But... Let's start with it. And this one kind of makes sense. We'll probably talk about episodes 1 and 2 together because Wikipedia also has it. I don't know. Because Wikipedia, they have 1 and 2 together, but it is a massive. So I'm just going to start with episode 1, and we'll go there. But both these episodes are titled Till Death Do Us Part. Scott and Jean get married, and an angst-ridden Wolverine fights Scott-like robots in the danger room. Meanwhile, Mr. Sinister uses a brainwash morph to lay traps to destroy the X-Men one by one. Morph struggles with his split personality, and his evil side shape shifts into different X-Men, luring them into dangerous situations. He tricks Gambit into kissing Rogue, Policeman into shooting Storm, Jubilee to enter a mutant hate group alone, changes the intensity of Beast's danger room to high, and sends Xavier to Antarctica. So that's why I'm stopping there, because a lot just happened in that first episode. So Kirk Patzer, start with you. We're back in it. Season 2, the cliffhanger was, hey, Scott and Jean are getting married, but someone was watching them. Well, we get the marriage and we get the who was watching them. We'll get probably more into Sinister in the next episode, but a lot goes down in this season premiere here. So what did you think about it?
Yeah, a lot went down. We had a character that came back that I did not think I was ever going to see again, which was Morph. I was not a big fan of him in the first season. So at first I thought it was just like a funny joke. Like, of course, the one character that I was just shitting on so much last retro, he's coming back and with a vengeance and looking like just a pure zombie. I thought the first episode, or I guess, yeah, we're just talking about the first part right now. But
Yeah,
the first
sure,
episode, I thought it definitely hit pretty hard of just like the intensity, like so much is going on. The first scene is just like, yeah, them at a wedding and Wolverine fucking up Cyclops. You don't really know what's going on, but like again, this episode didn't really take a long time for all of our heroes to just like get into the action and popping off. We had Beast doing stuff, so that was nice to see. Obviously he was really hitting the backseat last season, so it's nice to just have him a little bit, or doing a little bit more already in this first episode. And I think the morph threat, oh my gosh, morph threat. Third time's the charm.
You got this.
Threat. There you go. I thought it worked good, of just like I don't know, this character that from his point of view, like you could understand him just feeling so much hate towards the X-Men because they just completely abandoned him. But like I think him just like to a point, it felt like almost like he was playing these practical jokes on these characters more so than like really bringing a threat to them. So and like again, I was just bringing in my own like morph hate already. So I was just like, why are we spending so much time with this morph threat here? But it worked for the overall story, especially with where he goes and where Wolverine. Which like I feel like I never understood Wolverine's just love for the character of Morph, but later on you found out he was the only one that can make him laugh, and that was just a really funny point to me. But
Which
yeah,
I feel
don't
like
know.
we didn't see him laugh that much in like when we did just watch these 3 weeks ago, so maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall like Wolverine like haha Morph I love like I don't recall Wolverine laughing a lot in those early episodes because of Morph, and I guess he was only around for like 3, but still it's a funny phrase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I thought it was a good enough like first episode in the season. And yeah, I'll save my thoughts for the other part.
Yeah, I was just so happy when we did that first episode and everyone was like not shitting on Morph, but like, oh, of course we kill someone you'll never see, and I was like, oh, I can't wait till Morph comes back. So, Dylan, I'm sure when you clicked on it was a little spoiler because I'm pretty sure Morph is like the thumbnail of the photo when you click on
Yeah.
it. So I was kind of bummed about that when I saw it, but still, once you got that thumbnail into the episode, what do you think about Morph and his revenge against the X-Men that left him to die?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes down to the morph element of it, one, it's fun to have him there just from the perspective of like his power. Like Mystique got to do some fun stuff with that in the first season, but he never really got that chance. He died too soon before we could even see him like doing anything with his ability. So it was fun to finally have him in this position. It works better when he's on the evil side and he can take over the position of these certain characters. And it also makes sense, dude. Like he knows his way around the X Mansion through all these rooms. He knows what these characters are into and all this stuff. So it kind of works in that way. And it was fun to have him back. I think when you look at this as a 2-parter, it's more solid than like this individual episode is, as kind of what Kirkland's mentioning with Mr. Sinister just kind of being a tease even in this first episode, whereas he's like the teaser at the very end of last season. But I like that this pretty much, it seems like it picks up like immediately after the first season. Like it could be even like a week later. I mean, it's pretty quick for a proposal and then like getting married pretty quick. But in X-Men universe, like that actually feels like something that they would do. Like, yeah, sure, let's just go get married at the courthouse next week. That's pretty much what they did there.
Time's short. They could be snatched up at any moment by robots. So
exactly. But yeah, there's some very comedic moments in this episode that I don't think are very intentional, but just the classic animated series stuff that is so goofy. So I'm excited to break it down. I think this is a pretty good way to start the season. Sew in some chaos with like the president had that big statement at the end of the last season of like mutants are good people. Let's do this. Everyone, let's work together. And then immediately it's like, nope, there's like just havoc everywhere. It's even worse than what it was before. So it's got all that classic tropey stuff to it. So I'm enjoying it so far.
Taylor, what do you think about the return of Morph?
I wasn't expecting it whatsoever. I don't think I even clued into the thumbnail, him being on there or whatnot.
He's looking rough.
The
His hair's
thumbnail
all messy.
god didn't clue into the thumbnail.
No, I don't even like. I just feel like it was just the animated like X-Men like crew up there. I don't even remember like seeing
No, I
Morph
think he's
whatsoever
doing
on there.
something, like he's like looking up. He has his messy hair. He has purple Undertaker eyes. Like he's not in
Right.
good shape. More
No.
when we see him. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty good start. There's a few things that, like you said, Dylan, it just makes me laugh, and I don't know if they were really intentionally going for this kind of humorous stuff, but just things that were just very innocent that I thought like, oh, it's very peculiar, but I found it to be humorous, and yeah, it was neat because I feel like this is definitely the ground zero point of a very larger arc with Xavier that has gone on through like we'll talk about it through every single one of these episodes because they sprinkle a little bit more in every single episode. We're focusing on the X-Men and Xavier's doing a wild journey. So yeah, I look forward to talking more about that. But I think that there's some cool developments with our characters in this, and yeah, Morph definitely he plays the field right, and I feel like a few people get really bamboozled really, really well, and it really cracks me up like Gambit, which I'm excited to talk about. So,
Yeah, I feel like the Xavier Magneto stuff is like what we had with the first few episodes of Last of Us, where we kept getting like a little flashback and then you into the episode. Obviously not 3, but That's Magneto and Eric. You just get a little bit there. There's a couple more of them, but yeah, no, I think Dylan kind of hit the nail on the head. That's what I like about this episode is Morph knows what to do. He knows, like, he's more dangerous than even Magneto, who, okay, he knows Charles, but he doesn't know these other young people. Morph, he knows what button to push. He knows how to get Gambit out of the situation. He knows what to say to Wolverine to get him over the hedge, and obviously eventually Wolverine like sniffs it out and stuff. But that's what I like, is it is a one by one. It's something that happens in many superhero projects, but I like it. I think it's like if you're Mr. Sinister and you're trying to find a way to chip away at the X-Men, why not get one of their own, right? In this like mutated Frankenstein state. So no, I really like this episode. I like both the two-parter. I love everything that's going on with the marriage and everything like that. There's some fun, good laughs in there, and yeah, it's I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. So where do we want to start? We want to start with the more threat. Do we want to start with the wedding? Do we want to start with
Let's start with the wedding. Wolverine just going fucking ham in there in his dress clothes, totally oblivious to the wedding going on.
Well, it's funny you said that, Kurgan, because Emily was half watching too, and she's like, "What's going on right now?" Because they showed the wedding, and then they show that and stuff like, and then obviously it reveals to be a robot. But I love later on when Jean walks up like, "Where were you? You missed the wedding." Like, he's like, "Oh, I just was busy, lost track of time," and he's just like, his blazer's ripped up. He's just, and then of course he's still like trying not to flirt but be lonely. Like, I can't remember his exact line that he says to her, but again, like, "Oh, it's too hard for me," or something like that. But
I think he's like, isn't he like trying to say that he still loves her, and then she like cuts him off or something?
I
like
think
that?
so. Yeah,
Which
something
I
that.
like. I love just the disappointment that she has
Mhm.
in him. I felt like that was pretty profound for
Yeah.
how silly and goofy the show is, but I thought that was pretty cool.
But yeah, I think that's one of the most iconic images in the show is him in his tux in the danger room. You know, it's great. It's fantastic because he just couldn't bring himself to go there. What does he do? Go to the danger room, and love it. It's
To
good
just
stuff.
fuck up Scott.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not moving on. Yeah.
No, not at all. You know, he's having a tough go. Were you guys surprised that we picked up right with the wedding? Because obviously
Yeah.
the finale was, hey, we're engaged, but then literally this is we're coming into I do and stuff like that. You know.
I was shocked, but it was like short lived because I accidentally like started watching the first episode like
Oh, yeah.
while we were watching like the previous season. It just started going. And I was like, oh shit, turn this off. This is too much. But yeah, it gets right into it and it just doesn't skip a beat, which I appreciate.
I should have known just by seeing the title, but for some reason my mind didn't even go there just because the death element, like, you know, there's fighting all the time, so I didn't think about
Yeah.
how that's just a classic phrase, whatever. But yeah, I guess it does happen pretty quick. But okay, this is a bit of a random little tangent here, but this is like Beast is in this episode. And I think he's a bit in the next one, but then like he's not in the rest of these episodes. Like he's just completely absent again. It's not like he's locked up or something, but they just don't use him. But that's just a funny thing I was thinking about where the whole last season, like very early on, Beast gets locked up, and then we visit him a couple times, but like that storyline just moves so slowly of him getting out of prison when any plot point in the show can happen in an instant, but for some reason they let that drag on for a whole season. But then like he's not even really in this season so far, so that's maybe just a bit of a disappointment across all these episodes for me. Is like I was hoping to dig more to Beast. Kirkland, you were saying that too in our other episodes, like, okay, now that he's out, like let's see what Beast is up to, more about his personality, but he's just fucking absent again. It's so weird.
I feel like it comes at some point. Like he definitely becomes not a bigger character as far as like, oh, he's the main number one character, but I feel like it does happen. But it was kind of weird that he got out and then he is just kind of for these first few episodes like around, like he's in the danger room coming up. But yeah, I agree with you. He's could have been used a bit better here in some of these situations. So.
Well, I can't remember if it's this one or the next one because it has to do with the like Humans Against Mutants team group or whatever, and so. I feel like he's just used as like that martyr. Is that the right way to use that? Because he's like, he's captured on camera. He's holding a gun, and then it cuts. He's like lifting the car. It's like Beast is always in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's like Colossus.
It's
He's like
true. He's
Colossus,
very
yeah.
unlucky, actually. Poor guy. Very random Beast thing in this. Actually, I think it's before the wedding. It's him, Wolverine, and someone else are like at a bar. I forget who the third
I
person
think it's
is.
Gambit, right? Is it?
Yeah, it
Gambit?
is, it is.
Yeah.
That seems about right. But they're just sitting in the bar, and I think maybe they're playing pool or something. And Beast is just sitting at the bar, and it's like this scene goes on for a couple minutes, and then like after that 2 minutes, the bartender's just like, "Oh wait, are you that mutant guy?" And it's like this guy's presumably been in this bar for like a few hours, and she like just now notices him, even though he's like the most just easy to notice person ever. I thought that was a very
Oh
funny
yeah,
little
you meet the
situation.
giant blue
president.
man.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that scene, yeah,
Gambit's
where
like,
she's
yeah,
flirting.
selling
Yeah.
it.
They're like brothers.
so
I
funny.
do like that Wolverine and like Gambit don't always get along, but they're like trying to like help Beast in that situation, like maybe like get a date or something like that. And Beast is all like shy and stuff. It's good stuff. But yeah, you're right. As far, especially Beast, out of all, it's not like some guy you might recognize like a celebrity. Like Beast is, I feel like, has a pretty.
Mhm. He's huge too. Like
Well, yeah, he's
he's
huge and he has a
massive.
pretty unforgettable look. You know, like if you saw him on the TV and then saw a similar blue light creature in your
Yeah.
bar,
It's not like he's like sitting in the corner too. Like he's at the
Yeah.
bar, like front and center, presumably ordering drinks. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, surprisingly, the actual wedding, that goes off with a hitch. No problem. The problems start when, again, Xavier, good teacher, maybe not so much a great leader of the team. He just disappears. So, like, he's not gone, but, like, he says that he's just going somewhere, and the team's just kind of like,
He always does that.
yeah.
He's so cagey. It's so
He pulled a
Oh,
Gandalf. He's like,
yeah.
I'll meet you there at some point, and
100%,
I just gotta
yeah.
go. Don't ask questions.
The 12th of the hour when the dawn cracks. But the difference is like Gandalf shows up, Xavier doesn't. They always got to go bust him out of the situation. But yeah, this was the start of more little tricks where Xavier gets a message from Magneto that they have to meet. He's dying, so you got to show up like right now.
Love his like green screen that he's got in his room too, like the flames. He just had it
It's
ready
so
to go.
good.
James Cameron would be proud of Morph, you know. So, and then Xavier's like, "Yeah, I gotta go." He doesn't bring any X-Men with him. He doesn't tell them any. Like, he's going to see, you know, a threat that they fought in the finale. He's not going to tell them that, but all right. And then I guess we just talk about that now because it happens at the end of the episode. But yeah, he gets there, and there's both a misunderstanding where, you know, oh, what's wrong with you, my old friend? And Magneto's like, "You're the one with the problem, old friend." And then they're like, "Have we been duped?" And then something happens. What do you guys think? Because now obviously we have a bit more stuff that's coming in these next episodes. But this is your introduction to the Savage Land and a lot of things that I think will pop in the MCU, like a mutant world that has different mutants, dinosaurs, stuff like that. And I think we saw, oh, I can't remember which. Oh no, it was Genosha. They did in Dark Phoenix. They did like a lame version where it's just like a boot camp that Magneto had. But what do you guys think of? Obviously, it probably have some of your thoughts with other episodes. But what do you think of the setup as far as Xavier and Magneto have now been taken out of the picture? They're isolated on their own.
It's fun. I always love that duo whenever they're just off on their own. You know, like the circumstances as to how Charles got there is definitely eye-rolly and just hilarious. When he's like, "I just gotta go. Don't ask questions. And I might not be back. Like the keys to the mansion are in Scott's hands." But you know, like any excuse to get those two on screen together, I think is great because their dynamic is just so interesting. They haven't dove too deeply into it like in this show so far, so I'm definitely just bringing in like my own, you know, Days of Future Past and like X-Men with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, like just that sort of pre-existing history into it. But I'm hoping that like the more scenes that we get with those two, it just keeps developing. And I think what was shown even in the next few episodes, it you know, it's glimmers for sure, but just little moments of Magneto just constantly being like, why do you keep saving me? You know, like I'm such a thorn in your side, but like that dynamic just makes it so interesting, especially from Charles's side, but also like even from Magneto, like looking at Charles and like trying to kind of decipher like this individual and like why he just has so much faith in him. I think I find that so interesting that no matter like the circumstance to get them together, I'm taking it for sure.
I think I mean I like the idea of Savage Land and the pairing, as Kirkle mentions it, but I think for me I would have preferred like a two-parter or something that was just the Savage Land sequence. I think it's a bit too piecemeal for me, where you get essentially one scene every episode for the next 6 episodes, and not all of them are great, right? So then they're like, okay, well there you go, there's your element for that story here. So I think I would have preferred that route. I don't hate it, I guess, but I guess because of that, it feels weird to say it this way, but it feels like it's a lower budget thing that they're like, okay, we can only afford to do 30 to 60 seconds of Savage on each episode. And like, that's how they do it. So I don't know. I think the idea, and especially like the hook in this first episode for me, I was like, oh, I can't wait for this. And ended up not really living up to my expectations, even if there is some good moments to be had there.
I will mention I jumped forward a little bit because he leaves, gets the messages episode at the end of episode 2 is when they're officially tricked, but you know, it's kind of together and whatnot. And yeah, there's some fun stuff in it, but I wouldn't. I'd be lying if I said like the Savage Land. I feel like is always like my least interested part in almost all of these episodes in this season. I think near the end when they tied a bit more to some stuff, it's a bit better. But right now, it's just kind of like, oh, okay. But at the same point, like we meme about it, but I actually still kind of like seeing the X-Men without Xavier because they feel like they're a little wild and they feel like they don't still exactly know what they're doing. And there's like, and luckily it's not a who's the leader. The Storm and Cyclops aren't fighting, but it feels like it's always going back and forth between those two, depending who's in a hospital bed or who's kidnapped and stuff like that. So I kind of like that where it's just every episode, like, well, what will we do? And they're like, oh, we just got to stand up for whatever and justice, like whatever they find a way. But I like this kind of more ragtag without Charles, and obviously Charles has made some questionable decisions as we talked about last season. So, what about you, Taylor? Where are you feeling about? Were you surprised that Xavier was just like season or episode 1? He's just kind of just apart from the group for at least half the season now. Spoilers, but
No, there's a point that I have to make sure I mention when we get to the episode later on with Colossus and stuff, because it makes me really, really laugh. But yeah, he's buggering off, and the whole thing with not leaving any information behind is so ill-advised. Like, it's a dangerous world. Like, this is a world where humanity everywhere can just go around terrorizing people, laser guns left, right, and center, tanks and stuff. Like, you leave a note, for crying out loud. So when he goes out to this area, now the area, well, actually, are we talking more about that area? Because that's like the next episode, right?
Save it for the next episode.
Okay.
Well, no, the next episode it's just the trick. It's literally just they're like, I thought you called me. I thought you called me. Yeah, I think it's episode 3 when we start seeing some stuff.
Then on that notion, then so the coordinates that Morph picks. Now that's just supposed to be random. Like Morph just picked it, or did Morph pick it specifically because of Magneto's later learned connection with this area?
I think it's specifically picked, but I don't know if it's even Morph that specifically picks. I think Morph is like instructed to pick this location. Like maybe I'm not giving Morph enough credit, but it feels like he's just always like point and go do this and stuff like that. If I recall, I feel like there's something else that is the reason, and I actually can't remember if they fully answer it, but I don't think it's just random at least, because that would have been really unlucky for Morph, I guess. Just
Okay. That's what
As
how I
unlucky
took
as
it.
Beast.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, we get the reveal that more, because that's the first one we get it revealed for us. Like, okay, and Xavier gives some good words, because on the TV they start showing this new association, the FOH that's forming against mutants and stuff like that. And Xavier leaves with this good line. He's like, some blame people for some people. Oh my God, take 3. Some blame people with differences for the evil in their lives, and that's his like last line. Then he's gone. So I hope if he dies, that's good way to end off. But so you got that. Yeah, great one. He always has some good knowledge. He might questionable decisions, but like knowledge wise, he's always saying some stuff. But so he's gone. And yeah, Morph's there, and we get that reveal. We kind of get the flashback of, okay, the night of, he was hurt, Sinister found him. There's one scene I put in my notes is when he's in the hotel room and he's talking about what he has to do. They have the same, it's not the exact same animation, but they keep having him talk, and he'll roll on the bed. He kept rolling over and over.
Oh, dude,
but
he's
they're my
crazy.
friends. They're my friends. Oh, but I hate them. Oh, and it was just like, it was too like. But I like it. I'm having a fun time with it. But Morph is having a very Schmeagol Gollum moment in that apartment building of what he's done, and then he makes his way to the X Mansion, and he just fucking wrecks havoc. Like we said, poor Beast. He's just getting back in the shape of things. Gets the Danger Room on high. Storm gets shot.
Can you get killed by the Danger Room?
I think so. I think
We learned later on someone almost got killed. In
It's
the
unclear
Danger
to me
Room.
if like I don't know, a
It is
bullet in the
danger.
Danger Room is truly a bullet, or if it's just so the tech is so good.
Because that was already
That
tested
just
on.
seems like a big error if that thing is calibrated
yeah.
to kill them.
Well,
Good
we
luck,
see
Julie.
that. We see that again with Beast, but then we also see that again later on. Like we'll talk about in a later episode with between Gambit and Cyclops. But like I feel like this room can totally kill.
Yeah, which definitely a flaw. Like if you're making the school, there should be a point where you can just maybe be knocked unconscious and stuff. But yeah, Beast is
Or have
going
like
there.
a healing mutant on the side or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tag.
You have
Ju-
kids
on
going there.
vacation.
Yeah, well, Jubilee, right? Jubilee.
Well, there's no kids at this X mansion, other than I guess Jubilee.
She's a
would be the
kid.
one.
Yeah. She's. I guess Rogue's not a kid. She's
No.
her
She's
definitely not a
mid-20s.
kid.
That is
Well,
a
no.
woman right there.
Yeah, but like, so that's happening. Yeah, of course, Jubilee gets tricked to go this association. But my
Okay,
favorite thing is, go ahead.
Sorry, before when you mentioned that, like Sinister is just in the bushes during that invasion on that building. It just gave me like Mysterio and Far From Home vibes when it just cuts to that thing. When the Iron Man, presentation, and he's just standing in the back. It's like, what the fuck was Sinister doing there? And he just didn't intervene. It's so silly. That's just one of those things that I guarantee they were not planning ahead for that. Even though Sinister is the tease at the end of the season, I guarantee you, like when they were writing this season 1, like they did not think of that. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can go back and there's like you can see a silhouette of a character. I don't know. I should go back and check that out now, see if there is. But I highly doubt it.
No, I don't think so. I think the idea that I had canon myself is that he was gonna try and get Scott or Jean at that night, like because the team gets separated, right? So I feel like that was his plan, because I feel like what his plan was, like remember how season 1 ends with Scott, he stays back to fight. He's like, I'm not leaving anybody. Maybe he thought Scott was gonna stay back, and when Scott didn't stay back, he's like, oh, I just have Morph here with me now. But Sinister up to his good
I wonder if that was because I feel like Sinister to me seems like 100% the villain who will never be the one to fight until the very last moment. Like he's always going to
100%.
send his goons, and he has many of those, Morph included in that. So I wonder if that was his motivation for being there. Because if it was just a random occurrence, then that would be wild too. Just why is he here in this bush?
Oh yeah,
in New York or wherever they live.
Smells of summer around, but yeah. And then my fear, I like how smooth Morph is in the match, where he'll be rogue, and then the second that person walks out, he'll turn and everything like that. But of course, like my favorite one is the rogue Gambit Jubilee situation where Gambit and Jubilee, they're watching the news, and Rogue comes in, she's looking, and this blind Morph, she's looking very like wanting to talk, flirting, whatnot, and then Rogue's like, oh, Jubilee, just give us a second. She's like, no, I'm watching this, and Gambit's just like, get the fuck out of here. Like I don't know what he says, but he pretty much just tells her to leave, and then Rogue insinuates that she's maybe been lying this whole time about the powers and being kissed. But that's why I like what they do later on is the kiss happens. Rogue has no idea. Gambit has no idea. The shock, it puts him in like a comatose state for a little bit. But I like later on, we've always talked about how Gambit's like, even in this episode, he's like, where I come from, you always got to kiss the bride. And of course, he has to smooch Jean on the cheek.
What a fucking creep, man.
But at least they didn't go full creep. What I like is he's like, I don't care. Gambit doesn't go where he's not invited. So I like that.
I like that too. It's like, okay, he
there's a line
believes in consent, so obviously he's not a total douchebag.
yeah, I like that because first season there's a lot of like, oh, I don't know, man, you really. But I like that he would not have done anything unless Rogue went up there. But yes, knocks him out, and then the whole team's just down, and it does not go well for them. So, you guys have anything shout on the Morphs takeover here with Beast and Rogue? And all
I have
that
a very random moment, which is when Morph, I think he's appearing as Storm in the Sukins, and he's walking through the basement, and then Rogue walks up, and she just has like a hot cup of coffee with her, or I assume that's what it is, because she's holding the mug and there's steam coming out of it, and then the next, like they're talking, and then the camera angle whatever changes, and it's a zoomed out view, and then Rogue like continues walking, but then when she's walking, she's holding the mug by her side, and it's completely empty. At no point did she drink this coffee. So I don't know where this is like conspiracy. I'm like, where did the hot coffee go? It just
if she did, she downed it really quick, and her mouth is fried.
I know, yeah,
right now.
it was steaming, so that would not have been good. I mean, I'm sure she
Burned
could handle
lungs.
it. She's pretty tough, but
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny, weird little mess up on the edit there.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention too. After the kiss, Rogue, of course, has the kinetic power, so she's just blowing up whatever the rec room is for
that's
X-Men.
funny.
The couch is gone, the table's gone, like everything is just getting demolished.
Even just the way Rogue is sleeping on the couch is just like paint me like one of your French girls moment.
Yeah.
Like she is 100% posing, even though it's not Morph being weird in that moment. It's just her sleeping normally.
Sorry, I kept
She's
you
always
waiting.
styling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes forget that like she just absorbs the power of whoever she touches. So like when she like touched the couch and it just like went yellow, I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? I was so confused. And then yeah, she had to kind of explain. It's like, now this keeps happening. And she just like keeps turning kinetic, or I guess infusing kinetic energy in any object that she touches. But yeah, it's a fun little moment.
And as we've learned from last episode as well, like, how do I stop these beams from my eyes? She doesn't do good when she just gets the powers right away. Like she's been like if anyone knows Gambit the most, it's her. So I think she would know his powers and know, hey, maybe stop after that couch, stop touching things. But I just feel like she has to reconfirm, like, I think something's wrong, and she touches a glass, like blows up. I don't know, I think it is, and then
Yeah.
it just keeps going. But Taylor, go ahead, Curly.
Oh, I was just gonna quickly shout out Morph's like super evil, sinister laughs when he's like just being devious in the X Mansion. Yeah, like every single time that he turns into someone and like fucks them over, whether it's changing like the danger room or whatnot, he's just got the super cackle laugh, and it's just such like a extreme on the other side when he's like trying to fight with his own like split personality. He's like, my friends, no, like I love them, and then on the other side he's like
I hate you.
Super,
Yeah,
super
you'd think that
evil.
laugh would echo through the halls. It'd be kind of risky for him to do that. But
Is that Morph? Sounds like Morph.
Sounds like more.
Morph. But it's
he's
so
still in our hearts.
yeah.
He's still making me laugh.
His memory echoes through these halls. It's just creepy, like new students coming in. Like, I hate this place, man. Just Morph's ghost is laughing all the time. No, it's so funny because on when me and the kids watch Goosebumps, the Slappy episodes, they give him that laugh and stuff like that. But in the shows, they always refer to him as a dummy. So when he laughed like that, Gwen's like, he sounds like a dummy. But I forgot that she was referring to like a ventriloquist puppet. So I thought she was just throwing major shade at Morph for a second. Like, why?
Which
you
is
sound like
also a
dummy?
fair insult, I would say, for
Yeah.
Morph.
Yeah, he's going through some stuff. He's not the smart. I can't say he's not the smartest guy because he did take down the X-Men. Like, and he stopped like until Wolverine figured it out, and stuff like that. Like, and poor Jubilee. She gets put in the situation where she has to pick between the two, and Smart and Morph of like, hit me and you'll know which one's the real one. She hits the other one, but Wolverine's like, oh, you know what happens now, in the future and stuff. Which he didn't give her a game plan though of like how she should know, like what would Wolverine have done differently in that situation. And Emily had brought this up, and it kind of broke my mind for my comics, movies. They deal with Morph, they deal with Mystique. How come none of them, they've never talked about having a safe word? How come they're not like tilapia? And then okay, that's the real Wolverine. They go through so many. So when she said, I'm like, oh my God, since I'm a kid, I've never thought of this. Like, why have they never discussed this as a team? Like, we should have a word because we bump into multiple like Morph and Changeling people. So
I think it's ego, cockiness.
what do you mean?
Just ego and cockiness, like overconfident.
They
Don't
feel like
need
they
to
can
worry
figure it
about that.
out?
I
Yeah,
think they
feel
are
like
just.
don't worry about it.
I think they're just a bunch of dummies, like Gwen said. That sounds like a pretty reasonable. Like, there's a lot of bad decisions. From these characters.
Taylor, what was your favorite from the Morph adventures here?
When he was portraying Rogue and went in to confront Gambit, I was like apprehensive. Again, it's early morning here. I'm watching the show. I'm like, okay, how far is Rogue? Like, he's gonna go here. Like, he's pretending to be Rogue. I thought he was gonna do a makeout sesh. I really thought he was gonna do that with Gambit.
Yeah, he really
So-
fucks with Wolverine later on when we get to it. So.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I shouldn't laugh, but again, I fucking laugh about the Jubilee one when he changes to Storm, and it's like, I have a mission for you. Go deal with this. Like at this group, when she shows up at the door, and it's like, here, you're having some trouble with the FOH or whatever. And the guy's like, we sure are. And lures her in. She's such a bad character. She's so bad.
Okay, I mean,
She's a kid.
that's Storm, dude, and yeah, she
Yeah.
is a kid. I give her the pass more than anyone else.
Still, I just on her own going out like
like
no,
if I turned into
no.
something and told you to go do something, I feel like you would, Taylor. If it's someone, and
But
Storm's
you're
higher
at
quality
this
than me.
door and you see guys with like, I'm pretty sure they had the badges on their shoulders, and this guy looks super like doesn't ask for any credentials. Like, oh, are you really like? This isn't where the runway house is or whatever it is. I don't know. Just so many like red flags, so many.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember. Was she saved in this one or was it the next one?
Next episode.
Yeah,
Next
next one.
episode.
Yeah,
Next
because
one,
everyone's in a
okay.
bad situation here and stuff like that. So. No, I just laugh anytime Julie gets these situations because I'm just thinking like, oh, what does Taylor think about this? But anything specifically on episode 1? I got all my all my notes for
couple-
this one's gone.
Couple quick things. One, during the opening, I guess just like exposition dump when they're talking about how the anti-mutant, people have started up. There's like a sequence of like them showing just some people trashing the city, and we see that shapeshifter guy from season 1, like from the Morlocks. We see two of those
Leech.
people again.
Yeah.
We see the shapeshifter, and then that that girl who's like paper thin and she has like the white, like pink and blue, like pastel color. So it was fun to see those characters again. I like that these shows usually kind of pull those, no character ever has like one appearance. They're always popping up for even just a random sequence like this. And then also, like, what did you guys think of Mr. Sinister's look? The art style for him is pretty like vampire like, but I'm pretty into it. The teeth, the diamond on his forehead. I really like the look of him compared to maybe some other villains that we've got so far.
Complete like Apocalypse, completely the exact incarnation from the comics. Like
That's
what he
cool.
originally looked like. That's what he looks like. Nowadays, he's a bit more sassy. They've given him something where he really likes different styles. There was a Gala comic book. Like he's very into the look of things. They've made him a bit more just flamboyant and stuff because there's a Sinister that just is a bit more, I won't say comedic, but semi like that. But he's, if I made a top 10 for villain looks, he's one of my favorites. He just looks cool, sci-fi, and dangerous. Like those teeth, you would not like, even if he has no powers, you wouldn't want to mess him. Yeah, this is him from the Gal. Yeah, he's
That's cool.
he's a lot more flamboyant, a bit more. I'm trying to think of the way to describe him, like a comparison, but he's
Very
just
Renfield-like.
more, yeah, he's more jovial now and stuff. But I think it's just because they had to change him up after years and everything. But I expect and I hope that when he comes to the MCU, he needs to look identical to this almost. I want everything, and I love him. Just like you can't help but miss this guy and be like, damn, I don't want to mess with him. He just looks evil, the embodiment of evil. So I love it.
Henry Cavill could be the perfect Mr. Sinister.
Oh
There we
yeah.
go, yeah. Apparently, the rumor was so he was supposed to be the villain of the Gambit movie, and the person that was supposed to be playing him that was was actually John Hamm to be playing him.
Oh, that would be good as well.
Yeah, and then obviously it all fell through, but that was the pitch and everything like that. So
Damn, we need to rewind to that timeline. I want to see that movie.
yeah,
I was definitely getting a reminder of like Morbius Ultimate Alliance 3 looking at this look of Sinister.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Definitely.
I like.
I mean, he
that
does look like a
Morbius, not-
vampire. So.
Yeah, not Morbin time Morbius. I'm glad if
No.
we're gonna go one way or the other, it's that one. So
This could be another role for Eric Dane as well. He's got the
God,
similar
God,
face.
that flat top hair. Yeah.
For
He's
people
pretty
listening to
jacked.
this, like when that episode is dropping, like, oh, that's a deep cut. Like to bring that back.
Oh, 100%. You gotta
He's
keep
always
it going.
fresh in my mind. Yeah.
And I know every
No,
time Eric Dane gets brought up too, they're gonna have to search because like, who the fuck is Eric Dane again?
Like, oh yeah, him.
yeah. Unless you listen to that one episode, you have no idea. So he's gonna get a lot of Google traffic just from Kirkland.
Oh
so.
yeah, he was already in the X-Men as well. You don't bring him
He
back
was,
as Mr.
yeah. Remember,
Sinister.
Multiple Man. He's been there.
Oh,
so
right.
Yeah.
X3.
I already forgot about that detail. That was
You got
2 weeks
me.
ago. crazy.
Yeah, his armor and everything, I absolutely love it. It very much reminds me of just like what like a big bad action figure would look like, where it's just like so obvious. Like he has no like bright colors to him. It's just like dark
Yeah.
and red and like super pale
Danger.
face, like black lips and everything. And he's got like the venom teeth even that just like
Yeah.
super sharp and just sinister. And like his voice too. There's been some really just fabulous voice acting throughout the entire show, but especially with the villains. Like I remember we talked about that with Apocalypse and now with Mr. Sinister. It sounds inhuman. Like it doesn't really like it sounds like someone that is more so to be like an immortal, like someone that's just lived for like thousands of years. And yeah, he's scary, and I'm excited to see more of him.
Anything else on episode 1?
Nope.
All right. Episode 2, Mr. Sinister and his
I'll give it a thumb up. One thumb.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a 2-thumber. I loved everything. I loved the introduction to Sinister. I love the wedding. That gives me some meme stuff. I actually like all the morph things. I like the Rogue and Gambit situation. So yeah, I'm a 2 thumbs on this.
I think
one.
if the 2-parter was one episode, it would probably be a double for me. But I'll give it a clean 1.
I'll go to
Single
1.
There you go. Thumbs all around. Part 2, Mr. Sinister and his nasty boys kidnap Cyclops and Jean Grey while they're on their honeymoon. Meanwhile, the rest of X-Men are either in mortal peril or bickering due to more trickery. Eventually, Beast escapes the danger room. Gambit recovers from kissing Rogue, and Wolverine rescues Jubilee from the clutches of Friends of Humanity. Which, like talk about ahead of its time, man. Like that just feels like it's just pitch point like for shit that's going on today. Like there would be a group called Friends of Humanity that's telling you like these two people can't get married, like that. And I'm so fucking MCU when they do it. You know how much people can say how the X-Men's so woke, and it's like that's like their peer material. But anyways, the Friends of Humanity terrorist group Wallace complaining about the amount of bubble gum he had to sniff in order to track her down. Right, there you go, Taylor. Morph then appears disguised as Professor Xavier, and is immediately detected by Wolverine, who senses the scent is wrong. Gambit tricks Morph into revealing himself, and the X-Men realize Cyclops and Jean are in danger. They travel to the island to confront Mr. Sinister. In Antarctica, the real Professor X and Magneto meet up, and the pair engulfed by an avalanche. So with that, we talked about obviously the avalanche and everything like that. But yeah, I was gonna get into like because we saw Sinister. So Taylor, what do you feel like? We talked about the look. What do you feel about him? That he has powers, he's immune. Like you see in this episode, he's shooting laser beams. Like he looks like he can go, but much like Dylan said, like that's kind of last resort. Like he's a man of science. He's a man of experimenting. Like I love the entire first, I think it's like almost 5 minutes where they're showing them for the more flashbacks, but just everything of like I was hinting to you guys, like he's obsessed with, for some reason, he's obsessed with the Summers bloodline and he wants it and everything like that.
He's
and
like the sewer people again. He wants this like pure gene that they have.
Yeah, but he like wants them to like procreate right now and make a child, but he's gonna do and he
Fuck
has this,
in front of me.
he has this weird tube thing that like I don't know how they got that
Sucking
past
blood out of it.
Yeah, like but what do you feel, Taylor? Like he's more of a scientific, and in the comics he's been a part of a lot of cloning. That's what they were gonna get to in the movies. Like he's a villain, a mutant, has some powers, can go, but that's not his main bag. His main bag is science and gene manipulation.
Yeah, because we learned what he did to Morph here, right? Like Morph, like he brought Morph back, obviously, but he also pulled this little like maggot thing out of him and like popped it into Morph. So Morph's got this earwig dilemma going on that's kind of like pulling him to the dark side. But yeah, he like all these villains, they all have to have their four horsemen of the apocalypse, because I mean this guy's got the 4 goon squads,
The Nasty Boys.
The Nasty
Is
Boys.
that the official name? You
Yes,
mentioned
the
that.
Nasty Boys, yeah.
That is very interesting. I guess they all are pretty nasty, so it makes sense.
Not a great. I wouldn't want to be part of that unit. Who are you?
Mr.
One of the
Sinister
Nasty
and
Boys.
Yeah, do you think they
Nasty
knew
Boys.
that was what their name was?
Yeah, Sinister behind closed doors. Get the Nasty Boys on this.
What was the one guy's name? I can't remember because I think Wolverine called him out. Oh, what was it, like bearded man or so? Like, oh, you hairy man. He's like, how you know my name? Like,
Ruckus, that guy.
Yeah, I think so.
I love that guy.
He just started freaking out at him. That was just super unexpected. Very good though. But when we got the Jean and Scott showing up to like in their boat going towards the island, and you just see this random fucker just leapfrogging it out to these rocks. Like, what is going on? I think he's like, hey, you guys.
Ahoy there.
Yeah, he just sends a tsunami over their boat. Yeah, it's just super. I was trying to get a gauge on what was going on here.
He was like, I got something to tell you. He's like, what is it? He's like, oh, I'll tell you. And he just like yells at them. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. He's just this like super acrobatic individual doing like flips on the rocks. I'm like, okay, just his super purple and yellow jacket. He's a mutant or something. Like he's not a innocent bystander. And what an entrance though for a villain, just flipping on the rocks there and flip there.
Was that
flip their little
Banshee?
boat.
Or is that just a guy that has Banshee-like powers?
I was trying to look into that because like it doesn't. The powers look like Banshee, but he doesn't look like Banshee. So I think it's a more of Mystique situation. But I don't know for sure. But I feel like we see Banshee later on, and he has like the classic kind of ginger hair and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm trying to look into that right now because I had forgotten about that. But similar to Banshee.
I always love the different teams. We get another fun team later on in the season. But yeah, like Ruckus, who's like he's kind of got the ape costume and the toxic breath. You got the big guy with the very long eyebrows, which is like, I don't know, very like anime art style. We got the Banshee guy. And then the shapeshifter, the stretchy guy with the gray and purple look to him. The Nasty Boys, they are a very weird ragtag group, but I like this little squad of goons. I thought they were fun team for Sinister too. A weird team, really. If Sinister as powerful as he is, presumably this is the people he decided to get. Maybe he has to get people who are weak enough that he can like put the bug in them and stuff like that. But a funny little group. I like them.
You're pretty weak when you're just like they show that flashback and he's literally was flatlined Morph. You know, like there was not a single cell left in his body working, I guess, and brought him back though, you know. So
I still don't understand like what he's like composed of, because when Scott like Cyclops blasted his side there, he was like green goop and he couldn't regenerate. So I don't know what he's like.
Maybe he's an
made
alien.
up of.
They leave that very kind of ambiguous all the time. Like that's the thing that I like about him, and I think they've always tried to go for that. He is a mutant, but he feels more like a just dark magic, like more of a horror character and stuff like that. Because yeah, he can re-heal, but again, when Scott, and that's always the thing that Scott's beams for some reason, and I think there might be a canon reason, but they always hurt him a lot more than anything else. And I think that's part of the reason why he's obsessed with genes, because he can also like maybe help fix himself. So it's like the thing he wants the most is the thing that hurts him the most and stuff like that, like classic trope. So, but yeah, he's always been kind of more on the horror side of things. So,
Interesting.
what was I gonna say? Also, they got revealed that they weren't married because the priest is there at the beach or whatever at the lair, and Morph walks up as the priest and turns in. So, and then Jean's like, "Well, we're married in our hearts." So technically, not legally married. So you got that.
Leaves an
going
opening
on.
for Wolverine.
Wolverine
there.
was happy about that.
Thank you, Morph. One more time, baby.
technicalities.
Making me laugh and ruining weddings.
Yeah. So you got that. They're not married. So what a shame.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So, okay, this is kind of skipping a bit to the end here, but as you mentioned, Cyclops and Jean are kind of locked up in these machines and their blood is getting sucked out of them. I thought this was so funny that at some point, the team, the rest of the X-Men, whoever it is, show up to save the day and they're fighting the Nasty Boys and then Sinister. While this is going on, I think Morph is like inside the cave talking to them at some point. But then like the thing that saves them or gets them out of that is Cyclops just like busts out.
Oh yeah.
Just like no one ever actually saved him. And I'm like,
No.
how long has he been strung up here? He could have done this the whole time. Like what? Why did he wait so long? Was he waiting for the right moment? It didn't really seem like it. So that was a kind of funny thing to me. That's like, I feel like the writing here could have been better for how he got saved. It could have been on any number of things, but I felt it was a bit cheesy that he just, after a while, decided he was strong enough. He hadn't even tried up until that point.
The headcanon is, yeah, I hope that he was just waiting for the right moment. But yeah, the fact that he just flexes out of there when, again, all X-Men have some certain sort of strength. That's like that's not his main power, is to just break like metal rods and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess Jim Day's been working out for him because he got like you could have even had Morph kind of help him, but not really. Morph is still in a very big internal struggle in this episode. So
He was just biding his time, gathering his strength, waiting for a cooldown or something, and he just unleashed it.
even
pretty
too,
funny,
like I know he's better at his powers or he's used to them, but I still think even just shooting those things off of Jean is very risky. Like one wrong move and just like her arm could be gone. Which again, I guess there's power levels to it, but he's confident. He just walks over, does, and he gets them out of there, of course.
Well, because doesn't he like not have his suit at this point too?
No, he's just clothed with his
Right, so he doesn't have
with his
the
glasses,
the
I think.
goggles to
Yeah.
help. I mean,
Yeah.
because normally, when he uses the laser in that outfit, he just like takes the glasses off, right? So it's not like his goggles that help him focus his attacks and stuff. So you're right, that actually was a very risky move.
And I was looking into it. I don't think that was Banshee. I think it was a character named Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George.
So again, just someone with Banshee powers.
Who is Banshee again? Like, what's his name? Like it's not because who's Cyclops' brother?
That's Havoc.
That's Havoc. I always get
yeah.
those two mixed up.
Banshee X-Men. It's like no Warrington. That's Sean Cassidy is his name.
Okay.
Which I feel like I actually
I'm
don't
trying to remember if
that
he's
at
like
all.
related
Cassidy's
to.
son.
Yeah.
No, he's not. He may have brother someone out there, but Alex Summers is Havoc. That's his
Right,
brother, and
yeah.
he has it from his chest and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, which we may or may
Similar
not see
kind
at
of
some
power
point.
again.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I guess we could anything on Sinister or the Island because we jump back to the X-Men in a second there. But yeah, they get away, but of course Sinister's not defeated. He gets away on his plane jet and everything like that, and lives to fight another day. But and he explained again. Now Cyclops and Jean know that someone's gonna be coming after them because he wants their precious blood and stuff. But I think it's a good setup and I like everything that goes down. I like that Sinister again, like we talked about, kind of with the team, kind of has the upper hand until Scott gets out of there, and Scott obviously has like the bigger power because everyone else does hurt him, but he just heals pretty quickly and stuff like that. So I think it was a good setup for this new threat. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Morph also escapes, of course. So And I really liked his ship. I don't know where he got that ship from. I think he probably presumably stole it from someone, but I really liked
Yeah.
the look of that one. That was cool.
Anything else on Island or back to the X people there? Because in this episode, I guess we talked about a bit that, Jubilee gets back. She has to choose between the two. They're arguing, which I actually like that right away. They didn't put it together because she said something about like, oh, Beast, you told her to go do this and you left her alone. And Beast's like, that's not anything like I would ever do.
Yeah,
So I
Rogue
like
was
that.
pissed off at Beast.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. She was ready to throw down. But I liked it happen in the beginning and they didn't come back till like 5 or 7 minutes later. It wasn't like a right away they figured it out. Like she was pissed off at Beast. She was mad at Gambit for just like just kissing her while she's asleep, but then they eventually figure it out, and Wolverine smelled something funny. So
Well, yeah, they tricked Xavier because he just starts walking out of his chair, like, oh, this is
I love
sus.
that. Yeah, when he said, and
That's
then
funny.
Gambit throws the card, remember, and that's what makes him move. And the card's a dummy card; it doesn't even blow up and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
he's like,
because
it's
he
a
catches
miracle.
his phrase, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
Gambit's like, oh, like, the professor wouldn't say something like that.
Imagine if Gambit was wrong though. Like just a black guy on the team, like he throws that card, just kills Xavier in this moment. But
They,
luckily,
like push him out of his chair. Yeah.
yeah, Gambit knew what was up. So
Wouldn't have gone well.
Yeah.
Just one last thing on the Morph Sinister interaction. I love when Morph he's like part of the X-Men, right? And then he like grabs his gun and just shoots Sinister. Does absolutely nothing. He's like, I should have left you dead. It's like, fuck. Morph tried though.
yeah, his
He
big
was
moment.
honorable in that
He tried.
moment.
Yeah, his big moment, and yeah, he like Dylan said, he got away. He had a redemption moment. He even though again, like he didn't help Scott get out. Scott did that by himself, but I guess he gave the distraction for a moment. Even though the X-Men were, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute away, like Morph really didn't do anything. He just kind of didn't do bad stuff. I guess that's the point of the story, right? But he didn't really help them at all. But oh well. So yeah. Anything else on episode 2 that we haven't covered?
I like Beast's like disguise clothes. It's just like a ginormous trench coat and like a hat.
Yeah, it's just the
It's like looking
worst.
like the Rock
Very
trying to hide in
inconspicuous.
public. But
Looking like the MCU people, they just throw on the baseball cap and that's it. But this time it's
Yeah.
a beast.
it's the
Like,
90s though, so it's like a fedora, the classic
Oh,
spy
100%, yeah.
attire.
Yeah,
That's all.
that's all. Okay, I give this kind of the 2 parts. I had a good time with all of them, and I also just feel like the fight at the end with Sinister has like an epic feel because, like I said, I like that he did kind of take out a lot of the X-Men, and then Scott does it, but he didn't get away. So it felt very cinematic, and everything that they do in this episode, and even with the science stuff, that's what I really want to see with Sinister. And it's tough in the MCU because I don't know what they're going to do with Scott right away, but I kind of hope like you don't lead with Magneto, you don't lead with Apocalypse. I'd love it if they lead with Sinister in the MCU because like
Yeah,
you
me
haven't
too.
seen him at all. So it's tough because I don't know if they want to wait till Scott Summers a bit more, but that could be a great way to get to know him, right? Is with this villain. So that's always been my pitch is the MCU use Sinister because he's new. He's going to be new for people. They'll have no idea, and visually stunning. So yeah, 2 thumbs up for me.
I'll give it a 1.
I'll go 1 thumb and a half. I like
1.5.
this one a little bit more than the last one.
I'll give it a 1 thumb.
A 1 thumb. Whatever it takes. Episode 3. Oh man, the Shadow King lures Storm home to Mount Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro. Thank you there, go Taylor. By possessing her young spiritual son. So Rogue and Storm travel to Africa to stop the Shadow King. Meanwhile, Wolverine finds Morph, but is unable to convince him to return. After the ensuing fight, Wolverine reluctantly accepts Morph needs more time to heal his own psychological damage. In Antarctica, Professor X and Magneto survive the avalanche and stumble on a mysterious rainforest called the Savage Land. Here, Xavier can walk again, but they are unable to use their mutant powers. So I'm going to start with you, Kirkland. It's your nickname. What did you think of the Shadow King? Because he's a very... He's a common threat. He pops up a lot in X-Men. I don't think any of you watch it, but the show Legion they did a couple years ago that was about Xavier's son as the main character with Dan Stevens. Like Shadow King is like the main villain of the whole entire series and stuff like that. Like he's always trying to fuck with Xavier because they have like a it's weird. They have like a almost dick measuring competition about like who's more powerful and like the telekinesis sort of way. But what do you think about Shadow King? Again, we went from Sinister. This is like another almost like horror type mutant that is like like possessing, exorcism, stuff like that on characters and mutants we don't know or love.
Yeah, trapped in the Shadow Realm. Is that what they said?
Mhm,
Or,
yeah.
yeah. I really like this threat. I really liked his initial like appearance before he just turned into like the floating spirit head. He's like this. It's very very brief, but he just like opens up the portal as like a physical body or something, and then he just turns into that little ghostly floating dragon head or whatnot. And I just like the threat of this character like possessing different bodies. And you got like the class, it's like, oh well, it's like it could be anyone, I guess, right? Like just taking over anyone. And obviously the stronger the vessel, the stronger he would be. And I also just liked, honestly, just this whole episode, like through and through, with Storm just having this like child that I had no idea was ever a thing. It's not her actual child, but still, it's basically the same responsibility that she has, and just like the vulnerability that she feels about like having a character like that like she's willing to make a deal with the Shadow King because just to save like her son in that situation. I thought all that stuff was really really good, and again, just like the voice of the Shadow King was just so imposing, and I love these voice actors that are doing the villains. It's so menacing, and I like the rogue dynamic, her just really trying to save Storm, and again, all in all, I really really like this episode.
I never really thought about it the times I watched, but I really like the Rogue and Storm pairing whenever they're just those two together, because they're such like they're very powerful, but they feel like they're such different characters, but that's never a thing. There's never like tension between the two. It just feels like they get it and they go and they work together, whether it's like taking shots at Gambit together at like while playing pool or on the mission here. And it feels like I feel like all of them are like, and I don't think this happens really in the show. It might happen in the new seasons, but I feel like there's like you have like Cyclops' people and you have Storm's people, and I feel like Rogue is one of Storm's people. You know, like if there was a vote, like who's going to be leader, I feel like Rogue's.
I think it's just all the guys are just too busy, like you said, dick measuring. The girls just get along. You're like, we need to do this. The team play, and Wolverine, Gambit, and Cyclops, it's like worst combo. Like,
oh yeah, yeah, Peace, poor guy. He's just trying to keep it. But I just mean like, I don't feel like Jean and Jubilee, I feel like is closer with Storm as far as like a motherly thing. But I feel like so far the screen time we get them, I feel like they just have the most connection. Jean is just always just so tied to Scott right now that will change and stuff. But yeah, I just like that dynamic. Dylan, you were giving some chuckles. So was it situation, or are you not a Shadow King fan?
Shadow King. Well, I was laughing because Kirkland said the Shadow Realm, which it would make sense. I think maybe it was called the Astral Plane, or maybe it's the Shadow Realm. I don't know what it is, but the Shadow Realm, like I just got Yu-Gi-Oh vibes from the character.
Yeah.
The look of him,
He looks like
the
a
Shadow
card,
Realm
yeah.
element of it, like it just
It's a good
felt
shout-out.
the name, all of it just felt exactly like that. So I was digging it from that perspective. I thought it was a good time, even if it took a bit for us to get that version of the character. It was more just like ambiguous what was going on up until that point, but. Yeah, I mean, this episode's all right. I think I like the results, but I don't necessarily have a lot of fun moments in the episode. But it is one of those kind of good ones, I guess, for just some character backstory stuff. And I mean, I like adding some more depth to the character of Storm and what her life was like before X-Men, and it also kind of sheds a light that like, man, she just kind of just abandoned this kid and like in her home. Like, I guess she's got important things to do, but there's also a lot of time that they're just sitting around in the X-Mansion doing nothing, and it's weird to this point that she hasn't mentioned like, oh yeah, I got a kid back home, or I'm gonna be gone this week because I gotta go see him. Once again, as Kirkle mentioned, not like her birth child or anything like that, but still some interesting stuff there nonetheless.
Taylorfield.
Yeah, this villain terrified me. I almost had to turn my TV off. He was so scary.
Whoa.
But the way they talked about this villain just made me kind of think like, did I miss something in season 1? I felt like because he was such a reoccurring threat. Because Storm's like, oh yeah, Xavier fought him before and all this jazz. So I thought like, did I miss something? Did I totally blank out? No. So this was definitely his introduction, and I thought he was just fantastic. He was super cool, super terrifying. That moment where he gets pushed out of Storm's body when Storm goes and pulls the Iron Man trick, And then
Just goes fly high. Yeah.
yeah, basically. So he
Technically,
like
Iron Man's doing the storm trick. This came out first.
yeah, that's true. Actually, he watched the animated series. Like, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna use
see this,
that.
Pepper?
See if it works.
What if that was what if he mentions that in the movie? Like, oh, just like the animated show or something. That'd be such a random deep cut. Like this random episode from season 2.
Leave it to Deadpool. He'll bring it up
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah.
Once Downey's back and the new Storm and him are in the room, something will happen.
But the one thing that just really terrified me was just the chase, because he has Storm's son super quick, and he's just running for that small little like break in the like between realms, and the like this Shadow King is like the teeth and is like hissing and is like racing in behind him like super fast. They get into this realm. I totally thought the son was fucked. I thought he was done for because he got possessed in there. I thought, oh, this is next level bonkers. And then the Shadow King leaves his body. And then the boy outruns the Shadow King and gets out. It was just high octane. It was too much energy for 6 a.m. for me. But I
that
loved
he
it.
even-
I loved it.
The fact that he even knew like how or where to run in that realm is actually pretty impressive. Just like
is.
but what you step on, like it is a very trippy place. I love the visuals of that.
Yeah.
It was just a total mess in like the best way possible.
The platform too. It reminded me of like a Sonic the Hedgehog level or something. Just like the way it went to the exit. And yeah, he got a moment to showcase his powers there and just flat out won a foot race against the Shadow King. That was pretty impressive.
I do like how they explained it as well. Just kind of a callback to what's his name? The guy coming back through time and like changing
Cable?
things around.
Cable,
No, not Cable. The other
Flash.
guy. Flash.
Quicksilver.
No,
Who are you
no.
talking about?
The guy. Remember they mentioned it in the episode. We're like, oh, this is the result of that guy coming back
Bishop?
and warning us. Yes, Bishop. Yeah.
Okay, we got there.
Yeah.
Mess with time and it messes back. Yeah, I feel like this episode I've liked more as the years have gone on. I got more appreciation and I always recommend it. I always say Daredevil, Watchmen, and Legion. Those are the best comic shows. So if you like this, you guys, Kirkland and Ted, it's going to be way on your download list. But that's what that show is Shadow King and Xavier got in a fight, and what happens is Shadow King's like, okay, I'm going to go after your son, and that's what Legion's about. It's just Shadow King tormenting Xavier's son for years and years and stuff like that, and that's where that show and more reading the past few years, because I read that, it's like, okay, or I saw, I'm going to get more into it, because it was this idea of, okay, it's a very simple, they just possess people, but I love the look. It's not much, but I just like when the characters got the red eyes, and they got like their voice, but it's like more the Shadow King's voice higher, or like more lower, I guess, and stuff like that. So I like the simplicity of it. And I think it is somewhat of like a filler episode, but it's not a bad filler episode because I like that we get Wolverine doing his stuff, and I like that we learn more about Storm. Like I said, I like the Rogue and Storm connection, and it fits with Shadow King. That I like that he's just going after this village that's so off on its own, doesn't probably know much about the X-Men, doesn't have too much resources. It's just like magic. I don't know how I feel about the coincidence that her adoptive son also has mutant powers. Like I get,
You're telling me this is a Shadow King?
this is one of the forms he can take. He can take
Oh
many
my
forms,
God.
but yeah, he's like
Wow.
he's a fucking, and that scene is creepy because this is like that
Is that a line from the show?
what? No, that's not
Okay.
no, that's not a line from the show. That's a video version. And no, but this is the thing that David sees when he's like a fucking 5-year-old. This thing like comes from him, and it's like, yeah, the Shadow King is a very very interesting type of character. So I like this episode a lot. I like the little backstory with Xavier, and I kind of like too that they're on the back foot, because if Xavier was there, he could right away explain, oh, this is the Shadow King, this is what happens, da 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 da. Eventually they do beat the Shadow King, but I feel like with Xavier being there, it would have been quicker or easier, or Xavier would have just showed up and bopped him. But because Xavier's not there, they have nothing to go off on this. So I think that's a good use of Xavier not being there. So everything with the village I like Shadow King, and again, from Sinister to this to like the next 2 episodes we're going to talk about, I've again just forgot about how many of the big time X-Men villains they've introduced. This villain to me is like, I don't think you'd see him in the movies, but he would be like a perfect Disney Plus type of villain to throw him in some sort of show or season and stuff like that. So I think I liked everything with the Shadow King stuff, and I guess transition into the Wolverine morph stuff. I like Wolverine. He's always after the loners. He's always after the people that are damaged. And he's gonna try and help them out. This is the one where, again, talking about these people being dummies. They're talking back and forth, Wolverine and Morph, and then Morph decides, he's like, what do you need, a friend or you need love? And he turns into Jean, and Wolverine, like the big fucking idiot is, Gene? He thinks Gene. He literally saw Morph turn into Gene, and he's like, Gene, like, what? You can't be with Scott. Like, what? Like, it would have been different at least if Morph was somewhere else and then saw him. But no, he literally saw Morph. Like, I think if Morph would have kept going and he wasn't teasing him, I think Wolverine would have fucked this dude.
Well, like taking his clothes or taking her clothes off.
No, I mean Morph like started being like, I'm in love. He says some line where it's like, I'm in love, but with Scott, and then he laughs and stuff. But like, I legitimately think Wolverine in this moment would have gone through with it because he's so pathetic. He didn't even understand like Gene. So that was a little goofy, but I liked everything about the overall story of okay, Morph's he's gotta go his own way for a little bit, and I like that Wolverine. Again, no other X-Men went after Morph. So again, the way that Wolverine doesn't have friends and he doesn't care about people, he's the only one going after this former X-Men to try and help him out. So what does that say about the rest of the team?
He wants to laugh again. That's what he wants.
Yeah, he wants to laugh again. Yeah, he's just so tired of not laughing. But what do you guys think about Morph and Wolverine?
Like everything that you just said there about like him being like the one X-Men member to go find his friend and like really looking out for the loners, like all that stuff is very admirable for sure. And I feel like I understood Wolverine is a bit of a meathead, meatball, airhead.
This
whatever
is
you wanna call him.
This is too much though. You know,
It is. I like thought less of him in that moment. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, Wolverine? Like he's like, oh Gene, no, and he's just like so pathetic. He like falls on his ass essentially by like the fact that this person just turned into someone that he just really cares about. And yeah, it was a little bit too much. I agree. I think they could have done something where he like went around the corner and came around as Gene, because like even if they just showed the viewer that like he changed, but like right in front of his face, he probably just still reeks like Morph. Like come on, he doesn't smell like Gene. So yeah, it was a very weird moment, and it was like a flashbang went off. He was just out for it. Like he could not pursue him anymore, and then. I think that's when he dropped the line too. He's just like, I just need time on my own. Like, give me space, and then just bounced.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fun stuff in this sequence. One when Morph like enters the room, he's just switching between random characters. He switches between Deadpool,
Yeah.
Omega Red, who's coming up, Sabretooth, and then some yellow gold dude who has like kind of an X-Men suit. I don't know who that is. Travis, I don't know if you can remember off the top of your head who that is. I'm like, this guy's got pretty much an X-Men suit. Maybe it's a bit Cable-like. Maybe it's another version of Cable or something like that. I'm not sure, but I like the look of that character. He kind of has spiky hair, and I think he has like black sunglasses or something like that. But it's fun to see Deadpool in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as I've said before, you never actually see Deadpool as like a character in this show. They allude to him a lot, but yeah, it's because he wasn't that pop. He was just a part of Wolverine's origin. Because I like again at this point I don't even know if he's breaking the fourth wall yet, because that happens later on. He was just a assassin. That's why. It's
I guess you said the fourth wall stuff is like early 2000s, right?
Yeah, so it's not really a like, oh man, it's so cool. He was just like a nothing character kind of back then. I'm like, okay, he was a guy that worked with Wolverine, you know.
Yeah. And then the thing that really surprised me in this sequence when they start duking it out is that Morph transforms into a Black Panther, into a Rhino, and he's just murking Wolverine. I'm like, was he always capable of transforming into other creatures? In which case, when he's getting shot at by a Sentinel, can he not like just transform into an Elven and just like eat the shot and then continue on with his day? Because it's not just like him appearing as that. Like when he hits Wolverine as a Rhino, like clearly that is an enhanced strength shot, I would think, but it's like he doesn't take other characters' powers when he transforms into them. So this really threw my whole just concept of who Morph is and what his powers are. I'm like, what do you guys think exactly like are the limits of his power? Like, what does he get when he transforms into someone else? Like, if he transforms into, so let's say just the strongest man in the world, like does he have like a stronger punch as well in that situation?
It's really difficult because I don't.
Could he transform into a fish and swim in the ocean, like underwater? Like, why not? I guess.
I think. I don't know. I think he could, but I don't know if he can hold his.
Why did he need a ship? Why didn't he just transform into an eagle and fly around? Like these are. I have so many questions now about what Morph is capable of.
Yeah, the Panther. I kind of forgot about that, and I was wondering too if that made it feel better for you, because the way like Mystique can just turn into people, where Morph can at least like. he morphs into other things. But I feel like
Morph's got a bigger portfolio than Mystique, though. I mean, holy shit.
but I feel like I'm still picking Mystique in the fight, just because I don't know. It's just
Against a Rhino? I don't know about that.
because I don't. Again, I'm not like what Dylan's saying. I don't know if he can take a hit like a Rhino. I think he can just look like a Rhino. But maybe this is.
But he
I
like
don't know.
fucked up Wolverine in a way that
Maybe
I don't like. As you mentioned, like all mutants kind of have like super strength and all this stuff. But I don't think Morph. Really, I don't see him doing that to Wolverine if not for the Rhino temporary abilities.
I feel like maybe it's just because he gets like the body mass, so therefore he can like throw more power
Yeah,
with like
okay.
each hit
Maybe
or whatnot.
that's
Like
it.
if he's a bear, like he can do like
He creates matter and like increases
Yeah,
his size.
but like again, that's the thing. Like, could he just turn into like a blue whale? And he's
Yeah.
just like
There's even I've looked at I'm looking at forums right now. Feel debate about this. The difference between he and Mystique is, in fact, he could actually use the abilities and prowess of any person or creature he emulated.
Well,
But then someone said, but
including
not
mutants?
their mutant powers.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's where it's like I guess you could turn into them, but not use their powers per se. But
So
then
what
someone
if,
goes,
like-
yes, he could. So it's actually a debate.
What if he morphs into Spider-Man? Because that's not mutant powers. Can he use other powers or just no superpowers?
In my opinion, I would say no because I feel like he still needs to be like weaker, But then he
Because like
can-
is Mr. Sinister a mutant? Could he just like get laser shooting powers and stuff too?
Yeah.
That would have been fun actually. I feel like I wish we saw that in hindsight. Him turning into Mr. Sinister. That would have been
So
fun.
someone's pointing out that Morph can mimic claws, Sasquatch's muscles, Angel's wings, but he doesn't have the game-changing abilities like healing factor or death touch those characters possess. So it's like,
So he
think
could
that-
get Wolverine's claws though.
Yeah,
in
I think
theory.
he can take on like the physical things, but like you can't be Xavier.
But then he
And
wouldn't be able to. Well, I guess he could still get healing. So he
Creates
could've just-
adamantium in his
But
body.
that's what that person was saying. No, and I don't know what they're basing off. And I don't know. Same
So
thing.
when
I
he
don't
got
think
shot
could
by the
be-
Sentinel, once again, he could have teleported into Wolverine, and he could have like healed through the attack.
No, I think they're saying you couldn't use that power. You could only use
Okay.
physical powers, which I don't know.
I would say that's physical.
It doesn't
I don't
make
know. I
it
guess
doesn't
it's
make much
tricky.
sense though either because like the adamantium, like the claws are adamantium that Wolverine got, so it's just
Oh
like
yeah,
it's kind of
Huh.
a like it's a gray. That's what
We'll keep an eye on that if he comes back. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah,
Potentially
Great
one of the most
question, though.
powerful mutants of all time.
Yeah.
Worf.
stronger than Apocalypse.
They should have worked harder to save him. He's like apparently super crucial. Yeah, I guess he can't, turn into Storm and fly around. I guess that would be too far, but
yeah.
interesting.
Great sense of humor though.
Yeah, that's his true superpower. All along.
You guys got anything else on Morph there or Wolverine?
No.
I don't think so. Not on those two.
So this, God, I was trying to find what he looks like in the comics, but Dylan, that character, because he does pop up again later, is called Maverick, which you gotta love the Marvel Wiki. What's his
Interesting.
alternate identity? Maverick. It doesn't have much, but I don't know how much, because this is they were on the they're just called Team X in this one. We'll learn about that later on. But David North. I guess he kind of always looks like that. I remembered the look, but I didn't remember the name, and I don't think he's ever anything too big. But I was trying to find a character.
Because didn't we see him at another point too?
We do coming up. We do in
We're
flashbacks.
doing coming up, right? Okay.
Yeah, and the flashbacks. So he's mercenary, stuff like that.
Interesting.
What is it? Aliases, Agent Zero. Oh, if he's Agent Zero, okay, that makes sense. And I know more by Agent Zero. He's actually in Wolverine Origins, if it's the same guy. But he's just like
Interesting.
in
Huh.
a suit. He's just like in a blazer sort of suit and stuff like that. So just
Cool.
immersed. That's what they were, obviously, and stuff like that. Like any grade of Earth's mutants, he blah blah blah. Superior abilities as far as a result of Aftermath. Nord currently possesses no superhuman abilities due to the events of M-Day. That's the whole thing. But even without his mutant powers, he's an excellent hand-to-hand combat, precision marksman, and expert co-op operations demolition. So yeah, I think I know him as Agent Zero. And I don't know where he is now in the comic books, but yeah, there you go.
Speaking of precision marksmen, can we talk about Professor X and Magneto in this episode now?
The boomerang, my God.
Yeah, I was so impressed by Xavier's ability to just headshot this person on the back of a pterodactyl. Wait, was it a boomerang or was it like an apple? I forget what he
No,
It
threw
was
at
looked
him.
like a boomerang. I don't know where he
Yeah.
got it from. I didn't remember. I wasn't sure if I missed something, but he just like pulled it out. Like if my immune powers
He
don't
did.
work, Scott got me this boomerang for Christmas. Like
And
it was
yeah, and then
odd.
apparently he can hit a flying, moving target
He's been training.
directly in the critical spot. Like that was an insane like Fallout Vats moment that he did there. There's no way I ever saw him doing anything like
That
that,
blew
in,
my
the, in the
mind.
show.
Every day Storm's flying up there so he can practice. Like, Storm, get up there again, and just in case.
Yeah,
But yeah,
giving
it was-
Hawkeye a run for his money.
It was impressive, and yeah, this is like the first of many times where Magneto is in death peril. Like they do, like obviously Magneto saves him too, but I feel like Magneto more so than Xavier gets put in situations where it's over for him. But luckily, his friend Charles gets him out of it. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no,
He knows
nice,
the
fun
point
little
is
scene.
that.
I just couldn't believe the boomerang. I was like, what did I miss? And I don't think I did. He just had it. So. Anything else on the what was this episode? Was just called Whatever It Takes. Anything else on this episode?
That's all for me.
I like just like the big storm overhead when like the Shadow King was initially just like popping off and scaring the residents or whatnot, and then again it just felt very like Mortal Kombat like when he's like, all right, Storm, meet me on that mountaintop and we'll settle it there. There's like a huge raging storm. That's where you have forget the character even of Storm's son there, but just like standing with the red eyes and everything. It's just such a sweet look. So I was eating all that up.
Mizhnari.
There
you go.
Thank you.
I'm a thumb and a half.
I'm going middle thumb on this one.
Oh, middle thumb.
One thumb.
Thumb.
I'll go 1 thumb and a half. I think the morph Wolverine thing was a little
brought
bit
it
too
down.
much for me with the gene, but it could have been 2 thumbs, but that was just a little bit too ridiculous.
Yeah. Episode 4, Red Dawn. Powerless Magneto and Professor X evade dinosaurs in the Savage Land. I love comic books. Magneto says he's surprised Professor X rescued him, as Professor X's life would be easier if Magneto died. Very specific Wikipedia, thank you. Meanwhile, Omega Red is resurrected and by 3 co-op Russian generals who want to reclaim and rule a crumbling old Soviet empire. Colossus goes to the X-Men for help to save his country and his people. Jubilee decides to fly there and writes a note to the X-Men, which she pins on the refrigerator. They travel to Russia, and Colossus finds his hometown destroyed by Omega Red. Back in the mansion, Wolverine finds a note, crushes it. You don't need to put this stuff Wikipedia. He crushes it. That's what I mean. Like, whoever writes these, they go back and forth. Crushes it and travels to Russia. Wolverine, Colossus, and Jubilee fight Omega Red, who proves to be nearly indestructible. Storm, Rogue, and Gambit arrive in Russia soon after, complaining about the person who crushed the note and delayed their arrival. With the help of Colossus,
Talk about this note.
yeah, with the help of Colossus and Darkstar, a mutant Russian general who wants to protect her people, Storm freezes Omega Red in a block of ice, effectively bringing about the end of his tyranny. Colossus decides to stay behind in Russia to help rebuild his country. They didn't even mention that he finds Elena in here, but whatever. So lots in here. I was very excited. So Tiffany, what do you feel about Red Dawn? Because I've talked about before, like many times, like Omega Red, he was just one of those as a kid. I opened up a comic book and was just like, who is this guy? Like everything from the tentacles to like, I think it's the hair, that long bleach blonde
He
hair.
looks like a wrestler. I
Yeah,
think
he
that's
does.
probably why.
100%,
100%.
100%. But there's something like he has Doc Ock, he has the Terminator, he has the hair, he has the, and like there's just something about, he has like Red Soldier vibe or Winter Soldier vibes. Like I just love this character. So I was happy here. So Taylor, what do you feel this episode? And this
So
is your first-
the communist kind of aesthetic.
yeah,
he's
that too. I
enforcing.
love
Yeah.
communism. What do you feel about your introduction to Omega Red, who I also think is another character they will use in the MCU because I just feel like that aesthetic and like in this episode we literally have starts on an image of Captain America and it pans over to Omega Red. I'm like, you could literally see that thing recreated in like we already got Red Guardian. Like I feel like you could be like, okay, you saw Red Guardian. This is like the successful version of that, even though the man's like a monster now because he's just like metal and snake tentacles and stuff.
Yeah. Well, before I get to Omega Red, just with the episode, this is what really made me laugh because we have Colossus coming to Xavier for help. Every time Colossus comes around looking for help, Xavier is just fucking lost.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's just
In,
never
like,
there,
the
and
intro.
that's what I really found humorous is because Colossus looked at him. Xavier probably is just a legend who doesn't even exist because they've never been on the same screen together. So there's that. But yeah, getting into the episode of like Jubilee just making this choice to go out. Very bold, very heroic. I commend her. Kudos to her for taking that initiative.
She's trying to make up for the FOH earlier, you know.
She's totally trying to, yeah. But I mean, for all she could have killed Colossus. You're gonna let this kid fly this fucking jet? I'm sorry. No. That's a
sorry.
big red
She did
flag.
it though, right?
She had
nailed it.
hundreds.
She
upon
almost
hundreds
killed
of
them.
training hours, right?
She almost killed them though.
It was risky going for that high risk play of through the.
I mean, I think
the train
Colossus
tunnel
is
there.
pretty indestructible.
Yeah,
Okay,
true.
so he would turn and this girl is just like incinerated and the remains of
Just
wreckage
like
of his
covered in
plane.
blood.
Yeah.
He goes back
like,
to his
what
country
happened?
with no help
Yeah.
whatsoever to fight off Omega Red.
He's holding his sister, and then just see his Jubilee coming to the sky. No.
When they do return though, yeah, I was trying to like keep tabs on everything going on because we had robots, we had like tanks, and everyone like the villages are being like destroyed. It was like, oh my god, there's like all out war and like civil war going on in Russia right now. It's crazy. And so when they finally return back to the village and Colossus is with Jubilee and like the village is destroyed, super fucking random. The sister crawls out like, "Oh, Colossus!" or whatever. Like, what are you doing under this fucking like crumbling
She's
house?
working her way out. She's working her way
Yeah,
out.
very convenient timing. It's just super peculiar. But yeah, I think that leading up to the introduction of Omega Red, very, very terrifying villain, completely indestructible. And I really liked when we get kind of that foreshadow where Wolverine kind of like sees a note and then thinks like, oh, Omega Red, and they have this history together. I really like that.
Of
But
course.
yeah, when he's got like the tentacles coming out, I think Wolverine calls him an octopus too at one point. Yeah, there's a lot going on with this villain. They could have kept him like off ice, but I guess like he's just 1 to 100, so I get they had to put him back into like hibernation in this episode. But I reckon we're guaranteed to see him again.
Like, what would have been your pitch? You think they should just put him in prison like that? Like, what do
No,
you
I
do
think
with
he
him?
should have. I think he should have pulled a classic like every other villain we've seen and escape.
Oh, an escape. Okay.
Have a
yeah.
jet ready to
Goes
go.
down the apocalypse trapdoor.
It is an interesting choice that this is like one of the few times they chose not to do that. Right, and they choose to lock him up in some way. Of course, it's a weird X-Men way where it's not in a cell; it's in a fucking cube of ice. But
Yeah.
it was an interesting choice, I think. Even though you're right, he probably will come back and like make no mention of the ice cube. Like he'll just be back for whatever reason.
But
Yeah.
like, what else can you do with this character though? You bring him back and he's just gonna like Civil War in Russia all over again. I feel like there's not much you can do because his one goal, like program goal, is just to enforce the
I
Soviet
don't know. I'm
Union.
sure there's
Civil
100
War in
different
Russia.
Well, I
comic book runs where he did different stuff, right?
I think the idea is now that he can't be successful while the X-Men are around, right? So that kind of points his direction a certain way of like, well, I'm not going to be able to help the Soviet Union if the X-Men are here, so maybe I have to
gonna
take
indoctrinate
them. and stuff
them.
Like that. Yeah, he always pops up in these situations. Like, he's very much like he's not Weapon X, but he's the Russia Weapon X. Like he's always tied to these type of storylines. So I think in the future when we get other ones that have to do with Weapon X, Team X, the camp, everything, which we got a lot in these couple episodes we're talking about. But yeah, he's always in these like military ops, like anything that would be Thunder in MCU right now. Thunderbolts, Winter Soldier. I think he'd pop up in that type of genre for the MCU. So yeah.
I was curious what exactly is Omega Red and what is Suit. Where do you guys think the line is of like what is truly him and what is like what's Suit, what's like, you know, magnetic attachments and stuff like that, like tentacles?
I don't think that's him. I think like almost maybe just his hair, and then I think the rest of him has been like taken. Like I don't
So
know.
just over time he's like throwing on new attachments and eventually he
mods.
just becomes so many mods that he's like in a cyberpunk world and he's no longer himself anymore.
Well, I think he's kind of that way through, like, it's very like Wolverine with experimental over time, I think. Like,
Gotcha.
it's that sort of thing where he signs up for it, and then they build, and that's why I think you got the abbreviated version where you just saw him walk out of, like, a smoky lab and stuff, but I think it's like that, the reverse is he doesn't bust away in, like, Wolverine, where he's like, okay, I'm gonna go do these things, but, like, looking at stuff, there's been times in comics where he still has, like, more skin exposed, like, this one he pretty much was
Okay.
all metal, but there's times where he has, like, his guns are, like, skin and stuff like that, so I think they just did this for, like, versus Colossus and stuff like that. But
I think the thing that was confusing me too is specifically his tentacles, because like just anytime he's on screen, he is swinging those things around.
Oh, yeah.
Whack inflatable man style, and that's what made me wonder. Like, okay, if he is manually choosing to do all of these things. That's a lot of extra movements. Like, whereas if he's just like a cat or a dog, right, and it's like part of his body, and they kind of just swing it without thinking like consciously about it, then it would kind of make more sense. So I think that was what I was wondering. And then also like his powers with like the kind of electricity and stuff was kind of all about the tentacles. And so I was curious if that part of him was like, that's the physical him, and he can use his mutant abilities, which would be like the electricity part of it, or if it's just all like some machine and it's like Dr. Octopus but added electricity on there. So I kind of like that I don't know the answer to that, but I am very curious about like the origins of him and how it all came to be, because it does feel like, as Kirkland said, he's just attaching mods over the years. When he gets enough money for another upgrade, he just throws on another
movie
one.
robots.
Yeah.
You say the electricity. I thought that he was like absorbing their powers, not rogue style to use, but like draining them.
Well, there's still some sort of tech thing going on.
Yeah, because
right?
like I had to confirm this. Those tentacles, that's not part of his power. This is what I can't wait to see. They were created in a substance called carbonadium, a far inferior version of the substance. So it's pretty much like the Russ's version of adamantium, like they found. And
Yeah.
This was used to create the tentacles that were bonded, giving his trademark powers. But his
Okay.
regular abilities, because he's very similar like a Wolverine Sabretooth, where I don't think he has a healing factor, but he's very durable. It was superhuman strength, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, and the
I
ability
love stamina. Like,
which
why even throw that
higher
on? It's so
stamina,
mean.
Dylan. And they didn't use this in the show, but I hope they use it in the MC or whatever and stuff like that. He has these things called death spores. The actual thing is called death spores will result in
Last
weakness
of
or
Us.
death of humans in the immediate vicinity. So he can like weak them, like he can just put them out. So he'd be a great
my
like
God.
support player and stuff like that. So yeah, he's
Making
one of
some
these villains that's
clickers.
known as like a fucking just like he's just tanky and stuff like that. But yeah, he signed up.
Wow.
So that I think that was his powers before that. He was just there's tons of stuff too. Like who asked this question? What is Omega Red good for? This is one of the Google questions. Omega Red's immune powers render him immune to the effects of poisons and reduces damage of bleed by 90%. Tentacles hit reduce 100% damage.
That's a good.
It's like
math
it's doing like
number right there.
breakdown and stuff like
Is
that.
that just because 90% of his body is metal and therefore can't
Yeah.
bleed? Is that pretty much what's going on there?
Yeah. But
Oh
yeah,
my
so
God.
he's just he's just all senses, like stamina, very powerful and stuff. So
I think just piggybacking on a bit what Dylan said there about like the mystery aspect to his power, for me that like makes him even more scary, because I like all I know is that he's a really big deal, that like Wolverine doesn't even really feel like anybody can really take him down. He said like he slowed him down a little bit like initially before, but like just like the fear that Wolverine feels, for me the viewer, like I felt that for sure. Again, very menacing voice, very menacing look, and just like the way that he just pops off throughout this episode. I was kind of surprised, like what episode is this? Episode 4 now, I think. Like we've already got introduced to so many new like big bads like already this season. They're not really messing around with. I think I was just maybe a little bit trained from the first season, where we just had like a lot of Sentinels. We had a lot of different villains for sure, but there was a lot of reoccurring villains, where I feel like so far in this season, other than the 2-parter that we got in the first one, and I guess Sinister was a part of the third one as well, but it was just very much like introducing these big concept villains like Omega Red, who is like you can't just kill him off in one episode. He's going to be back, and I mean, from what was shown in this episode, it seems like he's near immortal. Like they just can't really kill him. He's just always going to be around. So, very, very imposing, I think, introduction of the character. So much so that like I felt the fear for sure. Like if this guy was just popping off, and like even if we had our whole squad with Charles, I'm sure eventually we would have been able to figure it out. But like the fact that all you can really do is just freeze him and then kind of put him on ice for another day. It's a freaky concept for sure, and this is a villain that I had never heard of before in my entire life. So just like this Omega Red guy, it's like, what the fuck is this? And like we were already talking about, like just sharing so many attributes with other notorious villains in my eyes, like a Doc Ock, like just like almost like an Ultron, where he's just like this robot type thing that's just like immortal. So really, really cool introduction, I thought.
Couldn't like, since he's not adamantium, couldn't Magneto just kind of like rip him apart?
good thing Magneto wasn't there. That's the thing.
He's
So
powerless in the Savage Land.
maybe
right
he could hurt him, but I don't know if he could kill him. I guess he just like take out those tentacles and stuff like that. But I actually don't know if they've ever. I'm sure they've come across, but I feel like they are always very different as far as like they wouldn't be like Magneto's usually not hanging out in Russia, like getting involved in these situations and stuff like that. But I think technically, unless I wonder if it's something. I guess that carbon medium or whatever. I wonder if it's like a true metal, or if there's
Artificial
something
metal.
yeah, if it's something like, oh, I can't control this, like there's something and everything like that. But yeah, no, I was just reading too, like talking about how can't just kill him. One of the reasons he was recruited because he was deemed to be executed because he was a rogue soldier that some people deemed as like a serial killer. His real name's Ardkey Rosovich. They executed him
Damn.
and he survived. So then they just immediately recruited him
Wow,
to
that's badass.
be like a super soldier and stuff.
Wait,
like
you
that.
said they executed him, but he survived?
Well, he survived the execution. I guess I
Attempted.
should say.
How did
yeah.
they try to execute him?
I imagine just like a firing squad or something like that.
They
But,
did a
him
pretty
to death.
shitty job if he survived.
well, I think the idea he's just so like he can absorb.
Or are they
so
trying
much.
to hang him, but then the rope just like broke immediately? It's like, whoa,
You're gonna
she
be a super
survived this.
soldier.
This guy's clearly an immortal.
He's joining us. Yeah.
I think it's this. I think it's this similar way as Wolverine, how he has the adamantium. He's like he had the healing factor, right? So like this guy could be put with all these implants and metal and stuff like that because he can take it and stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, good fight. I liked everything there. It's when these like I can't remember. Like I said, I saw the comic. I don't know when I'd seen this, but anytime Omega Red, he's somebody that I hope is gonna pop up in some like Marvel Ultimate Alliance game and stuff. I just
Yeah,
love
that'd be cool.
everything about him, and the MCU definitely I want to see, especially because like the Cap stuff's all there. Like he's just like Wolverine. He's one of these experiments to recreate Captain America, and it just never goes. Like they were lucky with Captain America, and it kind of happens with Isaiah Bradley too. But there's always something. Like look at Winter Soldier, right? Omega Red's one of those cases as well where they gave it to the wrong person. It's a person that's really bad and stuff. And I think this is like a solid. Like this feels very much like a action adventure episode. Like why I compare it to Terminator, it just feels like that. It's an action movie episode. You got Colossus. I like seeing Colossus, Omega Red, like that visual of them going at it. I like we've officially met Magic here and stuff like that. And twice now, Colossus has gotten the invitation to join the team, and he keeps turning them down and stuff like that. He
know.
won't do it. Yeah, but no, I really like this episode. It's just another maybe like filler, but I think it's like a solid adventure action thriller. So I don't know if I
Magic's his sister, right?
yeah, Magic's his sister. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. I
Yeah, which
didn't even think about that.
obviously, yeah, big fan of that character now through Midnight Sun. So I wonder if like I think she does come back as Magic in this show, right? But I'm wondering when that happens.
Yeah, there's some stuff that happens if you know about her origin that there's more. I don't know if it's ever really fully tackled, but it's one of these things that I think they could tackle a lot in the revival, which
That'd be
there's been
cool.
rumors that luckily that they're doing 2 seasons those at least, so they might become the other animated stuff, but I think they know with 97 they're like, that is a built-in fan base. So I think that's a character that you get little bits and pieces of, but I think we might even get more of the revival because she's more popular now than she was back then. So
Cool.
and then go ahead.
I'm excited. That's
Oh
all I
yeah,
said.
no. Then the other note I had that I like that Colossus referred to Rogue as the strongest of the X-Men. So he drew a line of just and that was in front of everybody too. He's like, oh, the
I would agree
strongest
with that.
one. Yeah,
I would agree with that as well.
yeah, for the most part, it's still like it's.
Who you
I
putting
would-
up against her? Who like if you?
I mean, whoever is stronger, she could take their powers and then have those
it's
powers
just the
plus her
Wolverine
own.
thing, though, right? Like
It's morph.
eventually,
He's the
Wolverine's
strongest X-Men.
yeah. Wolverine's always gonna outlast these people, as we saw in
No,
Days of Future
she-
Past, right?
Okay, yeah,
You can't
that's
kill him,
but
just
she could
eventually.
fly, and he could never get to her if they were in a
No, that's
battle or
true.
something. But
Yeah,
She puts on a jean disguise and he's fucking done for.
he's done. for
imagine
it.
that. What if she just like turns him into a human backpack so that she can always steal his powers for all time, and then she can live as long as he does. There you go.
A human.
she
That
does that.
sounds awful. A human backpack.
That's
What's
that's
that
some
comic
weird
book run where
alternate
Rogue's
timeline.
the villain?
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh, yeah, turn into
Wolverine
human
is a backpack. Yeah.
You hear what she did to Wolverine?
I want to jump to something at the start of this episode because I just found this whole convenience store robbery very funny, where Colossus comes to save the day, and then Jubilee shows up to this convenience store, and then I think there's like FOH people there that start wrecking up the place, and then Colossus shows up. But also, okay, Jubilee walks up to this place, and I think there's some like anti-mutant graffiti on the building, and she uses her powers to erase the graffiti. Once again, like Morph, I'm like, what are her powers? Like, how
Yeah.
could she just like how could she just erase graffiti? That to
That's
me
not
that just blew my
canon.
mind.
I don't think that's something she's doing in real life thing. I guess they're trying to
But
say
she
like
made
the-
it look so calm too. It's not like she was
Yeah.
trying to blow up the wall or something. Like she just like as if she does it every day. Whenever she's erasing something on a piece of paper, she just like uses her powers to do it. That blew my mind. But then
Yeah.
the funnier part about this to me was the shopkeeper. Like they clearly didn't want to pay a voice actor or something to like have this character. So he just like through this whole robbery, he has like all these facial reactions, but he never says anything. And the funniest part to me is at the very end of the exchange when Colossus and Jubilee save the day and Colossus like shakes his hand. He's like, "We did it. We saved your shop." And the guy just like shakes his hand but says absolutely nothing and then just walks away like not even a thank you. Just nothing whatsoever. It's just as if this is a daily occurrence for him and it was nothing out of the ordinary. So I just thought that whole shopkeeper sequence was fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah,
He's a man of few words.
yeah. Anything else on this episode?
The Dark Star character.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
I've ever seen her like ever before. Has she made an appearance in like the live action? Or
I don't
anything?
think so.
Like,
No,
okay, small
like,
appearance there.
yeah, like maybe she's like, oh, in the alley over there, but no, and I don't feel like she's around too much. Like even recently, like I'd have to look at like when Darkstar last appeared in that comics. It's probably been a minute, but
I think it was just interesting to see a character like that on the antagonist side. I don't know. I feel like I mean, never mind. You could probably make a bunch of pitches as to like an example of a character like that in the live action. I was gonna say the only one I can really think of right now is like an Emma Frost type, but there's probably been so many that I just completely forgot about for various reasons. But one particular scene that because I mean I guess her motivation was she was very much for like the Soviets or whatever and like following like the general's command. They send out this Frankenstein type monster that she's starting to see that they're like they can't even really control him. And when Omega Red like wins the battle, she kind of confronts him and it's just like you just like destroyed everything. Like the general's victory is hollow here, and he just like immediately like flails his like tentacles and he's just like pissed off. He's like, I fight for the empire that they give away, and he just like destroyed like the speaking stand, whatever the hell it's called. And she like doesn't say anything. She just like takes a step back and just like flies away, and I just laughed so hard because it's just like, man, fair enough. Like if someone's just flinging their tentacles, just get the fuck out of there. No need to say anything to him. It was just a very funny instance where she just like Control Z, just like undid that sequence caught out of there. It was hilarious.
I really like Darkstar. I mean not necessarily like an amazing characterization or anything, but I really liked her powers. The flying and like the psi like purple kind of telekinesis, whatever thing she had going on, I thought was really cool. So I thought she was a fun like additional character in there.
yeah, I'm looking up. I think it's been a minute since she's been in. Like you look at her
Bring her
wikis,
back,
and,
man.
you look at her wikis and stuff like that. It's pretty small, so I don't know. I don't know the last time she was seen, but we're waiting.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
And then, my last note on this episode is just the very quick Savage Land sequence, which is Charles and Magneto. And they're essentially just walking, and then like a T-Rex is following them. So they bait it around this like crater, like Ring Around the Rosie style. And it's like, geez, like they just needed to fill 30 seconds somehow. And they're like, okay, I guess we'll do this little sequence here. It was very cheesy. I thought it was so weird that they even felt the need to include something like that. I forget if they have any dialogue there of any substance, but just a goofy little
Yeah.
sequence.
He's just going like, yeah, and Magneto's throwing rocks at its head.
Yeah, exactly. That's all he's got.
Yeah, I think for me, like these Savage Land sequences, like I like them when there is substance there, but this is an example of one that just was definitely not needed, and I think it like slightly brought the enjoyment down a little bit of just having them like just tossed in there, because I just felt like I was in so many different places at once, but like when I went to different places, I didn't really get anything out of it. It was just like, oh yeah, they're still there, but in the moment, it's like, why not just save all these scenes to like an extended episode or something of just them in the Savage Land? I don't know. It was just something that crossed my mind. Whereas I thought, like, I mean, we'll get to it by episode 6, but I just think like as the episodes was going along, I kind of was losing a little bit of interest out of them. And again, that might have been one of the reasons, just because it was so many things going on that you kind of have to, I don't know, just take a moment and stew on, as opposed to just getting like a full episode's length to enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah. it'll like I don't know if it's gonna pay off in a way where you go, oh, I enjoyed all this stuff, but it'll tie together and stuff like that. So
Trust the process, as they
trust
say.
the process, yeah. Yeah, this one's a thumb and a half for me because I like the adventure, I like Omega Red, I like some of the team dynamics there. So yeah, it's one of the higher ones for me. So far the season's been good. So
Single thumb for me.
I'm going 1.5 as well, actually.
I'm gonna go one thumb.
one thumb. All right. Number 5, the Repo Man. Wolverine travels to meet a woman from his past named Heather. Never do that. However, it turns out to be a trap, and he is captured by Vindicator and Alpha Flight. In a flashback sequence, we learned about Wolverine's past regarding Dr. Cornelius and the injections of adamantium. Weapon X, and Weapon X, getting nursed back to health by Heather, the recruitment process from Alpha Flight, and the desertion to join X-Men. General Chasson sends Alpha Flight to recapture Wolverine to replicate his adamantium injections. When this fails, Chasson and Vindicator decide to remove his skeleton from his body so he can study it properly. Heather, horrified, immediately resigns. The rest of Alpha Flight also revolt and help Wolverine escape. Wolverine confronts Vindicator and says he will not show him mercy if he ever comes looking for him again. Meanwhile, the rest of the X-Men are worried about Xavier's mysterious appearance. Jean searches for Professor X and Cerebro is unable to find him, but senses Wolverine is in trouble. And as I just said there, it's a very Wolverine-centric episode. I feel like every season you kind of get one or two because, he's one of the main guys. But again, yeah, I feel like I've talked to you guys about this before, but I forgot it was this early. I was excited to get Alpha Flight, the Canadian X-Men, and this is a Disney Plus show I'm waiting for at some point in my life. But Tay, I got to start with you because I've always told you about you're gonna love Alpha Flight whenever we get to them, and I forgot they're this early. But you got people like Puck in there, you got Vindicator, who's just like the Canadian flag. But
I love his suit. His costume is awesome.
They
Sweet
look
suit.
cool. They look great. They look like an odd bunch. But then the big one, Sasquatch. I feel like this team is who you're gonna be waiting for come Phase 7.
Well, I was looking, Sasquatch, he's not even a mutant. He's basically a gamma experiment that went sideways like Hulk style when I was reading into his thing, because he can transform back and forth.
Did he have any powers though before? That's what my classmate did he have increased stamina? Is that why he's a
Yeah,
mutant?
exactly.
Yeah.
He was a
Slightly taller
scientist
than
from
average.
He's a scientist from Vancouver, British Columbia, who could transform into a giant fur-covered beast resembling a Sasquatch. He developed his powers from a Hulk-inspired gamma radiation experiment that was affected by a solar flare. Fuck.
Okay,
Eventually,
so he just kind of joined the team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, half of just Marvel characters are scientists, like before all
yeah.
of it. It's so funny.
Stop fucking
Yeah.
around, scientists. But yeah, what do you think about? Because I think I'd shown you this character before, but you got to see him in his glory here. So and he's massive.
well, yeah, I wasn't sure, because we first talked about him back in Werewolf by Night when we saw the Sasquatch mounted there. Hopefully, it's not the same
I
scientist.
hope not. Yeah, Alpha Flight's
Very
already
unfortunate.
dismantled.
Yeah. But I thought this was an interesting group of individuals. They're all kind of dicks.
Well,
Which is-
they turn around though at the end, other than Vindicator, right? They all kind of have a change of heart.
That's true. Vindicator's definitely the worst of the bunch, but I'm glad that the group turns around to kind of you didn't say anything about killing him or whatnot. Just you wanted to examine him. Now, one question: is it North Star and Aurora? Sorry, so they were the ones that we saw a long time ago, were they not?
That's what we thought. That's what I thought, but I don't know because remember we were talking about them when we said they were twins, and we weren't sure if they're husband or wife or stuff like that. But I don't know now if that original characters were them or if it's something they've retconned. Because I know later on, when we were a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Angel, I remember later on there was a flashback of Angel being on the team originally, but Scott was like, "I've never met you, Angel." So it could have been those characters, and then later on they're like, "Actually, we'll put them in Alpha Flight." So I can't confirm nor deny, but I can look it up on a wiki. I'll look. Wikis are great for that. So
But yeah, just the Canadians really just turned on. It was extremely personal. I understand. You left the team, you went to go join the X-Men and all that kind of stuff. So I understand their biasness, but. Yeah, just of all their powers, I thought they were a very cool bunch. Puck, I feel like he'd just be a regular dude.
what do you mean? He's a giant ball, Don't you love his voice?
Yeah, but
That's the roly-poly guy. I forgot what his name was. He was so funny. His little mustache and everything.
just interesting
That was Puck.
character,
That was
I
Puck,
guess.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that who you're talking about? Yeah, the guy who makes himself a ball and and hits himself. So those people were. It was North Star and Aurora. I'm looking at the X-Men
cool.
animated series. So they were on the episode titled Slave Island, which was Genosha. But yeah, that's they were there. So there you go. So they broke out there, went back to Canada to join Alpha Flight.
They were a long way from home.
They were, yeah. And I feel like you were happy with Sasquatch. I feel like you didn't talk about Sasquatch.
God,
I felt like it was gonna be.
We did talk about the gamma experimentations. Seeing him in there was very, very cool. I'm really glad that he is more or less like a hero. It's again, we get through these episodes, and I get more and more kind of really excited about X-Men and mutants, which is very. I never thought that would happen, but here we are. Just kind of
All it
seeing
took
like
was a Sasquatch.
all it took was a Sasquatch. All these like teams and everything like that, left, right, and center. Just everyone's got powers these days. Like I am enjoying it, and like, this is just
Except
such
for Jubilee.
Sasquatch is just such a. It's a weird kind of thing to go to. I guess Marvel back in the day is like, oh, what's a Canadian hero we could throw in there? Let's slap a Sasquatch in there. It's like interesting pick of all of them. But again, the patriotism that's coming off here, like Vindicator's suit with the maple leaf, I love that.
Yeah.
Calling the guy Puck, like they were just really going for those those stereotypes, I guess. That's okay.
I didn't even think about that puck. That is funny. I like that.
Dylan, what did you think about Canada's X-Men?
No, I think you guys covered it. I think it is a fun and like understandably goofy team for what they are. So I like them enough. I think some of the writing of Vindicator is like kind of weak as a villain for me. So I didn't necessarily love the episode overall. But as I mentioned previously, I just love when we get these ragtag teams, whether it's the Dirty Boys or whatever those guys were called, whether it's the Morlocks. I just love seeing these other teams when they show up. I love when they go all out and it's a whole team of characters instead of just one, because then it makes more sense too when you're doing the battles between like a group of X-Men and a whole nother team. So I liked it enough. Some good stuff.
Yeah, I I had heard about Alpha Flight before, the Canadian X-Men, so it didn't even cross my mind that we'd be seeing them in the animated series. So it was definitely a shock to get them here. And I think the result was very much like B grade X-Men, which, it's fair. The X-Men is a pretty notorious bunch, so to live up to that, it's pretty tough. But yeah, I thought the characters were definitely goofy, and it like the variance in powers. I thought that was pretty cool. Whether it was what were they called? The Wonder Twins, whatever.
North Star and Aurora.
North Star and Aurora. I thought they were pretty cool. And like Vindicator, I agree with what Dylan said about. I thought the writing around his character was just not. It wasn't the best for what I kind of wanted, because you have this really badass looking like leader of this like X-Men like what am I trying to say? Alternative X-Men group, and he was just kind of annoying to me. I thought it would have been a great opportunity to have a character that you just are really fascinated in. He's very badass, and like his motivation, I really wanted to kind of meet him halfway with it, because like Taylor mentioned, like, from their perspective, Wolverine totally just abandoned them here. But as the viewer, me personally, it was just like, well, of course he's gonna leave you guys. Like, like just the whole thing with like the experiments. It was just, I don't know. It was, they weren't painted as like a super lovable crew in my eyes, even though they were really goofy and like fun to watch. I just wanted, because I had heard about them and like didn't do too much research. This was my first, like, this is the first impression that I got, and it felt a little bit short, unfortunately. But yeah, really cool looking like a range of individuals, especially the Vindicator suit. I thought that was absolutely badass, and yeah.
Yeah, I remember I fell in love with these guys when I got just like some Alpha Flight random comic book, and like Vindicator was like the coolest. But yeah, in this episode, like what I love about it is I like the team, and I hope one day that finally Disney Plus is the shit out of this, and we get that Canadian Alpha Flight team and stuff. And I've heard people's pitches like maybe that's where you could start Wolverine. That would be kind of fun. But I like the episode. What I like about it primarily,
or Deadpool as well. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Integrate
those people with Sasquatch and everything. Yeah.
Oh yes,
good.
please.
Yeah.
Element.
I think the strongness of this episode is like getting to see Wolverine's origins. Now, of course, we've seen it many times now. Like even you guys through like the movies, they always retouch on it, right? But if you're thinking for this show, they haven't really touched it yet, and then you get the whole story here, and I think it's done in a good way. Of you see the memory gone, you get the full classic headgear, and he one man army just takes down this entire facility with his claws. Like he's hitting everything that can explode and stuff. So, yeah, I think Vinegar and even the scientists, they're very one note, so that kind of brings it down. But I like the team aspect. I like that Wolverine has he just pretty much destroys this team in a 1v6 scenario and stuff like that. Like, no wonder they're mad he left, because they probably started losing a bunch of fights. But that opening fight, he was taking everybody down until like he saw Heather and was like, okay, we'll talk. But no, he demolished them. It was like an adult versus a bunch of kids in dodgeball or something like that. So it was unfortunate for them. But yeah, I like the episode overall. I don't think it's one of the strongest ones, but I always got a soft spot for Alpha Flight. So, and I like their weirdness.
So he didn't have powers beforehand. Is that correct? When they put the
No, he
adamantium in him, they
He had
gave
the
him
claws
powers?
and healing. He just didn't. They made him metal.
Oh,
Yeah, the claws were bone. Remember
Yeah,
that
the claws
from
are
the movie?
bone. They always look disgusting.
Or
Well, in the
I don't know if
movies,
you've
I
seen
remember
the
that,
movie.
but in this, I felt like he just seemed like a normal guy, and they gave him the powers. Like, oh, what's going on? Because when the claws came out, they're like, whoa, what's going on? What is this? Like they were like
with
blown
the
away.
adamantium?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's tough because he acts that way too, but his memory's fried, so I'm not sure. Maybe he
When
just...
he's like, why are my like they're so itchy, my knuckles and stuff. So
But that's after the procedure, right? So he's lost his memory, so he would have been like not remembering that he had
That's
the claws.
true.
Maybe he just didn't mention it going into the procedure. I guess I don't know. I'll agree with you. It's kind of a gray area, but yeah, he does like. Comic canon wise, he has the healing in the claws. That's what, and like obviously some traits like he can smell real good and stuff like that.
Stamina.
But, yeah, great stamina, you know. But yeah, he has those powers before. The adamantium gets coated onto him because he can heal. So yeah.
There's another funny sequence here where, I mean, I guess a lot of the designs for pretty much all these characters, you know, the main X-Men and whoever else we see, you mentioned like Apocalypse and stuff, like are pretty much just comic accurate versions. So I guess it's not too surprising. But once again, Jean is looking for the professor with Cerebro, I think. And so she's like cycling through different heroes. So we see Nightcrawler, we see Angel again, we see Psylocke, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch. But I always just find it funny that for these sequences, they go out of their way to, like, these are introductions in a way for a lot of these characters. And since it is comic versions and they're not doing like interpretations, I guess it's not like, oh, they went through all this work to design this character. But there is still like a lot of artwork involved, I would assume, in like doing iterations and making it proper for the show and stuff like that. So it's interesting that they do all that for these, what are just like little sequences of not even like having a voiced version of them, just like quick flashes. But I liked seeing all those characters. That was fun.
That's kind of fun. Like you pointed out, just like the episode before we got Omega Red, we got more turning into Omega Red, right? So it's not like, oh, like some of them are just cameos, but some of them are, hey, they could show up later. So it's a great like showing of the world. So
Yeah, these are all characters that I would imagine we're going to see like one point or another, right? So
yeah, I think the only thing to hamper your guys' expectations, I don't think the twins, meaning Patron and Wanda, are too much in these. I think
Quicksilver
it's-
kind of surprises me. I don't Scarlet Witch. I guess I'm not shocked by, but
yeah,
I
they
never
got
thought
more.
he would show up.
They got more popular as they went along, and I still think those are people, especially because they're MCU characters, that you might see a lot more in the revival now and stuff like that. So, but Wanda gets way more popular around House of M time, which is like 2000. She's always been popular, but House of M 2000s is when she started to like become like a key character and stuff like
I
that.
see.
So, what was I gonna say? One of my favorite sequences is so they go out, well, like this after the disagreement, they ask him to do this. They're just probing him with this fucking light. Like, I don't know what's going on. They're just like blinding the poor man. And their idea is that, okay, they have to get this adamantium off him so they get on someone else. And Wolverine like literally just breaks like it factually down. Like, the reason it's not working on anyone else is because I have a healing factor, and that's like it's not gonna work for anyone else. And then the scientist is like, well, there's only one way to find out. But it's like, what? Like, I feel like he broke it down pretty good. While you're not going to be able to make this, like, you have to find another version like him. But they keep talking about, because I think what they're saying is like all the adamantium experiments that they've tried on people, they failed, so they must get the skeleton from the guy that worked. But his point is, no, it only works because of my powers. And the main scientist, like, oh, whatever, like, no, that's not gonna be the case. So I like that. For one, Wolverine was like a little like, I don't know, just called it out. It's not smart per se, but just laying it out and vindicated, and the scientists have no idea. And then Wolverine's last line that's like, you can send every Canadian mutant after me, but I'm not coming back and stuff like that. And then he does say, yeah, if you ever show, the only reason he showed him mercy is because Heather's like, that's my husband and there's still a good person in there. So Wolverine gets to pimp away and doesn't go well for Alpha. And I'm sure it's a pretty awkward for Alpha Flight team. Like, they all went against him. And man, Puck's voice, goddamn, like, you said you were going to be like, it's, you thought Morph had a voice, Puck's voice, just anytime he talks, man, I just giggle. So notes I got for episode 5.
Yeah, the last thing for me is just, I guess, once again, the Savage Land element of this, which is why I wanted this to be one episode. It's kind of weird to have, like, here's one sentence in every episode about the Savage Land, but the info drop we get here is that all the mutations in Savage Land are Magneto's creations. And then I think the Queen of the Savage Land, is that the character who, like, shows up here briefly, I think. So
yeah, and she starts.
So yeah, just dropping the breadcrumbs, I guess, towards this bigger reveal that Travis is alluding to, but worth shouting out at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's all for me on this episode.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. Other like you guys touched upon, just the holes that the scientist had from his motivation, being like, well, like this isn't working on anybody else, and then Wolverine just lays it out very clearly, and he just didn't want to have it. He's not taking that answer. So yeah, I thought that was very goofy there, and yeah, poor Vindicator just got absolutely. I mean, the whole crew just got absolutely their ass handed to them by Wolverine, and then thanks for Heather though. I really thought Wolverine was just gonna pop off the Vindicator there and just murder him. That would have been pretty gruesome for a little Saturday morning cartoon show, but luckily that wasn't the case. And with the Savage Land, did we see the Savage Land in Multiverse of Madness? I'm like messing with
one
my
of the
There's
shots, right?
theories, yeah, with the dinosaur and T-Rex
Yeah.
that people think. Like, I don't think it was ever confirmed, but I think that is Savage Land. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that earlier, and then I couldn't even remember if that was actually seen, but yeah, it was just like a split moment in Multiverse of Madness. So
We're gonna
it's in
get
the
there.
MCU.
yeah, we're gonna get there. That I think that's why obviously they're holding back in the X-Men, right? Because I think like even you guys see from the show, like something like Omega Red, you get like a whole movie out of that. Like
Yeah.
like that's the great thing about X-Men. They're to me very much like Batman, where that's why Fox worked for so long, because they have like their own universe within a universe. There's so many moving teams and parts like that can be an MCU phase 4 or phase like a phase, which is every TV show movie, it's an X-Men, and so we'll get there to Savage Land. So, anything else?
No.
I'll give it a thumbs up. I thought about a thumb and a half, but yeah, and then your back half gets a little murky. But like I said, I like getting the origin of Wolverine. I like the introduction, but I'll just give it a solid thumb.
I'm going clean half thumb on this one.
Clean half thumb.
I'm also gonna have to go half thumb on this one.
I'm gonna give it a thumb and a half.
Whoa, that's
a
Sasquatch.
step up for
Sasquatch.
you too.
Sasquatch doing it for me.
Nice.
And then finally, our last episode of this batch, Externally Yours. Scott trains in the danger room and complains that the training room is too easy. Gambit gets a disturbing phone call and accidentally switches the training room to intensity, nearly killing Scott, who is rescued by Rogue. Gambit is forced to return to his southern roots by an ancient tiff, an old family feud, and the kidnapping of his brother, Bobby. Trading himself to save Bobby, he falls to the clutches of his ex-fiancée, Belladonna, who, funny enough, in the movie was supposed to be played by Leah Seydoux when they were doing that. Yeah, it would have been fucking really great casting. So hopefully that happens again. She still plans on marrying him and reveals she gave the Thieves Guild, a fake thief, whatever that word was, thief, whatever it was. Meanwhile, the rest of the X-Men sense Gambit is in trouble. They come after him to investigate. During the presentation, Gambit reveals to Bella deception, and the fight ensues. Jean telepathically informs the external of Belladonna's treachery to the external stripes of Belladonna and her powers. In the Savage Land, Magneto and Professor X continue to battle and evade mutates living there. It is revealed that Magneto was once responsible for creating the mutants residing here in Savage Land. So that got a little messy there, but pretty much at the end, it's just you got the Guild of Assassins, you got the Guild of Thieves, and Gambit just pulls a quick one on this. So Dylan, what do you think about this episode? Because I think we talked about this in season 1 where I think I said like, oh, it's coming up soon. We'll get a lot more backstory in Gambit, and here it was. We got his origin. You meet his brother. You meet his ex-fiance. You meet like a lot of his family, or just like who he grew up with. So what do you feel about him? Because him being a thief is a very big thing in the comic books of being from the Guild of Thieves, and that's like his grow up, and that's why he kind of has a chip on his shoulder because he was a criminal in his past life and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I liked getting some backstory on this character finally. Seeing one of his family members was pretty fun, and the ex-fiance element of it. So overall, I thought this was a pretty decent episode. It felt like a very weird, like odd man out sort of episode, which strangely does feel perfect for being the Gambit backstory one. So there's definitely some fun stuff in here, and I think just the decisions for like the Guild of the Assassins, the Guild of Thieves, particularly the thieves and like his brother, the accents that they gave them were so strange. Like I was getting Tommy Wiseau vibes from them, where it would be like 3 or 4 words that were just completely regular, like no accents whatsoever, and then just like a very slurred like second half of the sentence. So I had a good time just like trying to conceptualize what was the idea with these characters. This is very strange. And then I like I don't know if you'd call her a villain, but just a kind of gray area, but the external, I guess, is what the name of that character is, who's shows up every 10 years and like does the bidding between these two guilds. So I really like that character. There's something mysterious about it. It's kind of got like a Madame Web quality to her. So overall, I enjoyed this episode. I like the visuals of it and kind of fun story stuff going on here. It was a good one.
What are you, Kirkland?
Yeah, this episode really, I mean, like Dylan said, like it felt like an odd one out episode where it just seemed, and again, I guess it fits with what you're saying, how Gambit already is such an odd one out character that it fits the, like his origin, and like an episode centered around him would feel that way. Because yeah, when you're meeting like the Guild of Thieves and Assassins and like the external one, like it was so different from everything that we had already seen. And like we got Sasquatch already, we got Omega Red, like we've already gotten some pretty wild stuff. But for some reason, this one just really, I don't know. I think it was just even like the beginning when he was just Gambit was like just head in the clouds about his brother and just like can't even like turn down the danger room. It was just a really weird like start to the episode, and then from the get-go it just, for me personally, just kept getting weirder and weirder. I don't know, like, and I think for that reason, like I might need to like rewatch it to enjoy it more, because I think I was just a little bit I don't know, I like uneasy watching it, if that makes any sense there. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of interesting stuff with his backstory and just the overall like thieves and assassin faction type thing. Like it was just really, it was really bonkers in my mind. And I'll let Taylor go, and once we talk some specifics about things, because it just, I don't know, it didn't really make sense, everything that was going on there. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I'm just an outsider and I don't really know how those things are supposed to go amongst the thieves and the assassins, the external one or whatnot, and the tithe or teeth, whatever the hell that thing was. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know why they would uphold this tradition. It just seems like they're getting the shitty end of the stick. Like they all should get out of the swamp. They're living in dismal conditions. Like, I feel like maybe this is why the Gambit movie didn't take off, because this is what they're going to convert to live action.
They pitched them this. They're like, "What? You want to do this?"
It was about some of his time in the I'm pretty sure. Like, not exactly like this, but it was about some of this. So,
yeah, I just don't know why this mutant is taking advantage of these people with "give me the tats" every 10 years. Like, it's just super, super weird. But
that's why Gambit left. You got the hell out of here.
Yeah. That being said, like I thought it was funny to kind of see him get pulled back into this and get roped in with this former love fling, I guess, like that. And
we saw Rogue be a bit jealous about this.
Oh, she was jealous,
not
all
happy.
right.
Yeah, she might always show Gambit that she's fully committed or whatnot, but she was not liking someone else calling him her husband or beloved or whatnot. So
that passed quickly, though. To be fair. Because it was like, that was
she
one of those
got to punch
situations.
her, though, I think that's why. She came and just fucking socked her.
It's true, but I just feel like in so many movies we talk about that, how like one line of dialogue could clear this up, and they never do it. But I feel like in this, it's like, okay, we actually did resolve this in 30 seconds, thankfully, instead of going on the whole arc for the rest of the season where she doesn't believe him and has this dark past. Maybe it'll go that way still. I don't know. I haven't watched ahead, but
no, I think
I like that we actually kind of got past that pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it's funny. Like I love Gambit. He's one of my favorite X-Men people, and I think that I always like his origins in this in concept. I think I like it more as just the backstory. And I don't think I need movies or big explainers. Even like, I like the idea of him coming from the guild of thieves or assassins. Like, okay, again, he has a checkered past, and that's why you can't trust him because he could turn on you at any moment, right? That Jack Sparrow thing of like, can you trust the guy at any point? Oh, maybe not. And that's where the X-Men was, right? It's supposed to be showing that you can, and there is a good person there. And then it's also like same with this episode. I go, oh well, maybe this episode needed a two-parter, but I don't necessarily know if I want a two-parter of all this. I think they throw a lot at you in this, and the small 22 minutes that it is. So I think I like the brother, I like the ex-fiance and stuff like that. I think I wish it was more smaller scale, and if you're gonna do just one episode. So like I said, I like some of the back and forth with Rogue, find some of these situations. I love there's just one good line, Wolverine, like he's trying to take off the ring, she's like, you're not the marrying kind, bub, and then he gets fucking shocked. But this ring, very, very powerful. But so I like the idea, but I think lots of this stuff I could have done in preferred in a different package, or just give me some dialogue. But I like that you get a Gambit centric episode, and I like that for the most part you start to get those for these characters now. Like we got a couple of them last season, but like this one already, we got a Storm one, we got a Gambit one near the end of last season. We got a couple Rogue ones, you got a Wolverine one. Really, just Scott and Jean you haven't, and Jean you're gonna get a bunch of those at one point. So I like that you kind of go through and like, okay, it's Gambit's time to learn some stuff, and I feel like you do connect him. So I like the episode, but it's definitely lower tier for the ones we've watched so far. So
That's fair. I think one element to this episode as well that stood out to me was just the lack of the crew of being here. Like, I think this is the first and only episode so far that Storm is just completely absent. Like, she doesn't even have a line of saying why she's not here. She's just not in the episode at all. Once again, I mentioned this earlier, but like Beast, who knows where the fuck he is for the last 3 episodes, but once again, he's not here. Cyclops is in that opening sequence, which I really like, that opening sequence of the lava monster situation that was going on there. That was pretty fun, but I think that could kind of lend to the episode being a bit weaker too, is that like, yeah, Jubilee as well is completely absent. So just a lot of the team's not there, but I did, in the absence of them, you know, Gambit's already there, but I like the team that does form of Wolverine, Rogue, and Jean that go to save him. I liked that trio. I thought that was a pretty fun group to have, because obviously Wolverine and Jean, that's always a fun thing. But then I don't know, Rogue I think is either my favorite or my second favorite to Wolverine at this point. So I'm always, and obviously she has a connection with Gambit too, so that makes sense that she would be here. But I liked that little trio that went to go save Gambit.
yeah.
It's just with the whole thing with Cyclops at the beginning when the accident goes off. I love seeing that lineup of just all every villain we've seen so far, just like up against Cyclops. It's just kind of like, holy fuck, like how's he gonna take on all these villains? You get like Apocalypse, Omega Red, and like
all at the same time.
yeah. But he tries to handle it, which is, you know, good on him. But I'd still be pretty mad. I'd be very, very mad because you're on death's doorstep and you're laying there like, what happened? And
Gambit's like, I'm out of here. He doesn't even he just beelines to leave. Like, he's just so inconsiderate. But you know,
I think it was Jean or Rogue that came in, and just either one of them. One of them
Rogue.
came in. It was Rogue. You're like, yo, Gambit got a phone call. He's very stressed. Like, yo, he's stressed. Like, fuck, I just took on like every major villain from season 1 and like season 2 here.
yeah. I did like though the tie back because you talked about Jean, and we got this last season where they were talking about, remember, Cyclops did the whole like, why would anyone get the cure? And Jean was like, we have to think about their lives, and not everyone's the same as us. Da, da, da. We had that at the end of this episode too, where it was just Jean and Scott together, and Jean said like, we have to start stepping up. Like, there's things we don't know about these people, and Scott's like, well, why doesn't he share it? And Jean has to like, Scott he's just such like a do-gooder, but like she has to explain, well, not everyone wants to share everything, and we have to be better with these people. So again, I like Jean kind of, you're seeing that sort of eventually the leader that Scott would hopefully become. Like, Jean's feeding it, and it's Jean too, but I like that she's just pretty much says like, we have to step up because we have to help these people, you know. And Scott's like, you're absolutely right, Jean, and then they fade away, of course.
Yeah,
romantic
quietly
music.
a very good episode for her, because I also really like the sequence when they're up against the external, and she's like going into the external's mind to share the information and show the perspective that Gambit wasn't like, you know, doing this in bad faith. Like, he's being a genuine guy here. It was the Guild of Assassins that tried to screw them over. So I really like that she used her power in that way, because we've seen a little bit of that. We saw obviously in the last episode as she was looking for people with Cerebro, but I thought it was cool out in the wild for her to do that. And I think if I remember correctly, she did it so much that like burnt her out. Right? She kind of got knocked out at the end, and Wolverine was carrying her. But I thought that was a cool use of her powers. So yeah, I'm glad that you shouted out Jean there.
Following that scene where she uses her powers and lets the main head honcho lady mutant see what was going on, she retracts it or statement and looks at the Thieves Guild and is like, okay, you guys, like, what do you desire and all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure it was Bobby, like Gambit's brother. Immediately he's like, kill them, execute them. Gambit dives in there, is like, no.
Yeah, Bobby's had a harsh life. I think he doesn't have
Yeah.
the pleasantries that being an X-Men does
I-
from Gambit's lifestyle for the last few years.
Yeah, which is true because they're living in a mansion and they're like the poster child. But still, like last year, the X Men were getting locked up in jail. So I still like, oh, you're part of your fancy X Men. It's like they do have it a bit better, but they're still pretty suppressed. Like they're on the front lines every day fighting Omega Red, Mr. Sinister. Like it's not like Gambit has it easy. So I like that Bobby trying to say, oh, you got it so easy now, X Men. You come back here, X Men.
I got a kick
I
out
shouldn't
too
have
when
come back here.
when the assassins gave them the tithe. Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Tithe,
The
yeah.
tithe.
And then and then it's like empty or whatnot. They just totally fuck them over. It's like, well, it's not our fault. You didn't check it. And there's just like, it just reminded me of some like cheesy like high school bully thing. It's just like, you idiot, you didn't even open
Too
it. And it's
stupid
like
to
not our
look at
fault.
it.
Yeah. And then when the external like reads it, like or Jean incepts the memory, I guess, into the external one or whatever she does. It's just like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like she did not agree with the assassins point of view from that one. But and then with the assassins, I must say I love their looks. I
Yeah,
thought like
me
all
too.
of their costumes were just so badass. They just seemed, again, like they could be just goons, but like the armor that they had and like the helmets and everything, it looks so sweet.
They all
And
had, like, a
Belladonna's
slight
outfit too.
variant to it as well,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't like it was the same color scheme, but they all had like slightly different versions to it, which was cool.
Very
Yeah, the
MMO,
thieves,
where
they
it's
looked
like,
very
yeah.
like just rugged Gambit like with the trench coats and everything. But the assassins, they got the bigger budget for sure.
Always throws me off when you see the flashback. You got Gambit in his gear and he has like that long ponytail. Like it feels weird. I always feel Gambit feels weird when you see him without the headpiece, like that's around his head, like holding. It feels weird when you see his skin. Like, oh, he has like a face and stuff like that. But then he has those eyes, and then he had quite a look going on back in his youth. So,
Good for him.
anything else on episode 6?
Once again, my Savage Land shout out of the episode here because I just thought this sequence was particularly funny. Where I forget which one of Professor X or Magneto is like getting jumped by this 4-armed dude, but then the other one just like I think it throws a rock once again and just snipes like a hornet's nest, and then it like falls on the guy, and the guy's like freaking out about these bees in a very classic way. So I thought that was a very goofy, just the antics that they're getting up to in the Savage Land are so stupid, but kind of entertaining at the same time.
I think Charles throws like a javelin, doesn't he?
Something like
that's
that.
yeah, it's definitely
like,
yeah.
the Machamp type character is just like holding Magneto, and Charles just abusing his leg usage. He's just like perfect form, whips his javelin, nails the
thriving.
hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he reminds me of Goro. Was this also the same episode where we had the lady that was like saying you're gonna die or whatnot, and they like cut the bridge in half and swing back the other way? Was that this
Mhm.
episode or last episode?
I think it was last episode. I thought because
can't
that's
remember.
a one time Magneto saves Charles because Charles is about to
Right.
fall.
Yeah,
and
because that
Magneto
would have been
actually
when
gets him.
the Queen of Savage Land was there, so that would
Yeah,
have been last
right.
episode.
Yeah, good old Savage Land. I'll give this one just a thumbs up. It's probably like a weaker thumbs up. I can't get it in the middle because I still like Gambit enough. It's close though. This was probably probably bottom barrel of the episodes we've talked about so far, but I still like it enough that I'll give it a thumb. So
I'll give it a nice beaming thumb for me.
Beaming thumb. Yeah, I think this is the lowest episode for me of the season so far. So a little half thumb on there. Some cool character designs for sure, but I wasn't loving the thieves versus assassins.
I'll give this a protruding thumb.
Oh,
protruding thumb. Well, there we go. We've done it. We've tackled season 2, the first half, and then we got a bunch of fun episodes coming up. We got 7 more episodes this time because at the end we got a 2-parter, and yeah, should be good. It's a bit more ideas about what the Savage Land has to do. You're gonna meet a couple more classic villains and stuff like that, and yeah, there's one in particular I'm excited to talk about. So that'll be it. That's your people's homework. If you're wondering what we're doing, it's what is it, like 8 to what is it here? It's 7 to 13 of the next
Cool.
episode. So that's what you
Nice.
got going on. So we will be back, and I promise you it'll not be boring.
See ya.
Maybe.